And now, live from the Man Cave, Studio B, deep in the heart of Constitution, Livingston County, Michigan, where the Constitution matters and libtards don't. This is a Sunday night campaign conversation with special guest Dominic Restuccia and yours truly, Larry Parsons, the ever-present earwig, the real Tim Allen behind the scenes. This is my brain, and now your host, the man that puts this all together just to tick off the libtards, Jeremy Scott Gibbs.
Your buttons didn't work?
Yeah, my buttons are broken. I couldn't give you a yay. Yeah, I'm refreshing my buttons. My buttons are refreshing. Let me bring you in live, gentlemen.
Bringing us in
There you
live.
go,
All right,
there
there
you
we go.
Larry, give me a mic check.
You brought me in while I was still fixing my.
I'm just glad I said his name right.
I was about to say, I didn't expect you to
that.
get that first
I
time.
appreciate
Let
that.
me get the yay.
You didn't practice.
I did not.
You're busy having chicken and macaroni and cheese.
That was an
There's
excellent
the
dinner,
yay.
by the way, buddy.
It was good mac and cheese, especially. That was really
Dude,
good.
I
Still
don't
extra
like.
cheese in there.
Roasted chicken.
I like doing the
Rotisserie.
Velveeta with the the milk and stuff.
Yeah.
And I
Is that what
worked
the key was? The
Yeah,
Velveeta?
the
That was
Velveeta.
good.
Well,
That was good.
we added some Mexican. So the
I thought that
Mexican
was a little
shredded cheese.
spicy.
Yeah.
That was good.
Gotta do it. Gotta do it.
I'm a sucker for cheese. I mean,
Dude,
if you can't tell.
I will not accuse you of being cheesy, but I appreciate that.
Here's right.
All right, everybody in chat, don't forget to
welcome.
hit that Rumble button.
Welcome. Dominic, well, we started with dinner. Do we
Thanks
need to
for
give a
having me.
disclaimer? Yeah, absolutely, man. You got the feel for the crazy man cave?
Beautiful spot. You guys have done some great work in here, I gotta say.
So we can do this right here. Is it toast tip here? Or is it just me? I mean, like a
Well, it was like close to 80 degrees today.
It was. And I don't have the skylights with the vents yet.
Well, I sweat like Marco Rubio, just to be clear. So.
Oh, little Marco. Little
yeah.
Marco.
Glad you picked up on the reference.
Little Marco.
Oh, man.
Just a quick reminder to everybody in that's tuning in.
Yeah.
If you want to participate in this show, which this is a special conversation, so chat will be limited today, but you have to log in.
Our acknowledgement of chat?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
But if anybody's watching and you're not a regular podcast watcher, you have to log in to participate in this show.
Thank you, Larry, for that
So,
clarification. If you're
yeah.
watching on other platforms, the only reason we do the other platforms is so you come over here to Rumble. So
Right.
come over here to Rumble. And for those of you that are watching on their platforms and you don't know this rumble.com/this is my brain. So simple. So we only broadcast on the other platforms, so you come over to Rumble. Not that Rumble is the only game out there, but they're the best game in town.
Although Twitch does give me the opportunity to ask some people to make clips.
Correct.
You can clip
Well,
in Twitch.
Our Twitch
And we got
enthusiasts
Baghead
would
louder,
never-
louder over there in Twitch land
our
all
Twitch,
the time.
Our Twitch enthusiasts
Thank you
would
for his
never come over. They're like, no.
No, we want him there anyway.
Anyways, let's do this. I will. Let me see what we're gonna do. Dominic, do you have any disclaimers after I give our disclaimer tonight? Do you have any?
You have
I
to
don't think so.
disassociate
define a
your
disclaimer.
opinions from the opinions of the
Yeah.
peanut gallery.
These are the opinions of Dominic Restuccia, candidate for Michigan's 50th
Yeah.
State House District. My opinions are my own, and they can be held against me in a ballot box. So
Ah,
there you go.
Very good. Very good.
Nothing's off the table. So
We don't have the FBI tonight. Coffee. We have CIA.
that's right.
Yep.
Do you see CIA?
Somebody was joking with me that I should,
CIA.
the old Mickey Mouse song, M-I-C-K-Y. I
Yeah.
should do something like that for my name.
Right.
R-E-S-T-C-C-I-A. Not an easy last name. Man, I've been focusing on promoting Dominic because it does stand out a little bit. Not a whole lot of Dominics running around.
Have you ever shaved? I mean, it would probably be light right
Shave
now.
my head?
Yeah.
No, I never have.
You could do
my
maybe
dad, I can tell you actually, if you take a look, you look at my dad's butts. You know,
Yeah.
I was homeschooled growing up.
I'm just saying you could with the Dom, if you just went with Dom and kind of played it into a Fast and Furious motif.
It's all about family.
Pulled up. It's all about family. Pulled up in a hot rod. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I can't afford that these days. But...
I shaved my head for 28 years, and now I just let this thing do what it does.
There you go.
Until you get to about Ice Wizard levels, and then
Yes, and when it gets, dude, I'm overdue for a haircut, and my hair's. I've been working in the dust, and my hair is dry right now. So
this is as long as I let mine go. I'll get a haircut over.
It's beautiful.
Sometime the next couple of days.
Like your sense of humor.
What?
Your hair is dry, like your sense of humor.
Is it?
Right.
Oh, it took me a second there, Larry. I didn't pick
Thanks,
up on
Larry.
that.
It's kind of a
like his humor and the drink.
Oh, man.
Let's disclaimer. What you got?
Tim, go.
We got to This Is My Brain Notice. If you haven't heard this before, welcome. You're new to the world. You should have fun here. This podcast is mostly raw, like a fat man running in 70-degree weather, chafing kind of. Oh, wait, this is a Sunday. I got to keep those comments to myself. Unfiltered and completely politically incorrect. We say Merry Christmas when that used to be a problem when people said Xmas, and the Pledge of Allegiance, especially the part about one nation under God. We thank our troops for their service when we know they're around. Thank you, Larry.
Thanks, Larry.
Those that are serving to protect our freedoms. We only recognize, don't know what else there is, 2 genders.
Dango and no dango.
That's the way we say it. As adults, we enjoy adult beverages. We only have those to drink. If we happen to have a couple, clinky, clinky. We don't have the overhead. The overhead's off. The actual camera's off. I couldn't do an overhead clink.
I'll get it. I'll get it. I'm on it, boss.
All right, back to the wall feed. We cuss, which is the use of street vernacular.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, like, you know what Paul said when he said his life was worth dung? He actually said shit, but no Bible will print it.
He gets the S-bomb.
Yep, he does.
No, you.
We do not curse or swear. We don't, by the hairs of my chinny chin or wish that your children get born without teeth or hair or pointed ears.
Yeah.
We don't do that. We love Jesus, hate religion, and religious hypocrites.
Hypocrisis.
Pick it up out of that. Took me a second.
If any of this notice offends you, you're not going to enjoy the rest of the show. So you can
exactly overhead working, Tim.
Overhead, clinky clink.
So we switched up cameras. 4 weeks ago?
Well, we started filming the long table, so we wanted to have a little additional shots on the guys. And when long table footage, which is gorgeous.
Yeah, but we did that. We shuffled up cameras. We moved them around.
Yeah.
And now the overhead camera is a different camera.
Yeah, and it's all labeled.
And the man cave camera is a different camera. And we've had problems with those two ever since.
Right.
Where normally these GoPros, like the man cave shot GoPro camera over there underneath you see it underneath the TIE Fighter? Just a little, see the little
Oh,
crane?
yeah, I see it.
Okay. Yeah, that man cave shot is usually
that
what I
hung
open
there,
the show with.
Turned on and accessible at any moment for 2.5 years. Like I never touched that camera for 2.5 years.
The whole time, yeah.
Didn't have to turn it off, didn't have to turn it on, nothing. And now that I've switched up cameras, that one doesn't want to work over there. This one has to be turned on every show. And I'm like,
technology, man.
Yeah. Well, and the funny thing is this is a 7 and the 4s that we have right here, solid.
Yeah.
I'm like, Tim, go on eBay and find us like 10 more solid, 10 more of the 4s.
Well, I mean, it's kind of like I used to have a 2012 Ford Escape.
Yeah.
Great vehicle. That thing was still going. I'd still be driving it today. My sister got in a car accident.
Oh, yeah. Right.
My grandmother had a 2017 Ford Escape, 2015. Nowhere close to as good a vehicle.
Right.
I mean, night and day. There's so many more. The computerization of our cars.
Yep. They mess them up.
I'm just going to go on a quick side tangent.
Do it.
This is a good, I think, topic to get into anyway. I had an issue recently with the thermometer to my engine. And normally it's like a $60, $70 piece. It's something that you can fix yourself. So I took it over to my brother. He got the reading on it. Took it to a shop down here in Howell. And the dude tells me it's actually a computerized thermometer. It's $400. And they don't have any available except for a handful at the actual dealership. So you can only get it at the dealership.
Oh.
You have to pay $400 for it. I'm thinking to myself,
how long ago was this?
Oh, this is still happening. This is like a couple weeks
ago. Right now?
Yeah.
Did you check Temu? Because they might have it there.
No, I haven't. Temu?
We we had this big discussion about Temu.
It went over my head.
So Temu is this.
It's one of these
straight
from China
straight
shopping
from China
sites.
shopping websites.
Okay.
And I was like, guys, we got enough problems with China. And they're like, no, it's literally the same exact product.
Just
Yep.
straight off of
But we're bypassing the American company that's passing it off as being somehow.
The 70% markup.
And you're like, oh, really? They're like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess I need to check this out. So they don't have everything, but they're getting stuff, and they're like, I was like, oh, wait. No, and the guys were like, no, this is literally tag, packaging, the exact same product that you're spending 80%.
Well, I know this is not something that like is commonly talked about in political circles, but I do think it's come up a little more lately. I think this is in part President Trump's influence, and I think there's kind of some of these younger conservatives, Marco Rubio, Josh Hawley, J.D. Vance, who started talking a little bit about industrial policy. I think this is kind of an offshoot of that because a part of the inflation of costs is the fact that we've outsourced and we've driven so much of our our production resources. So this stuff it's cheaper on the ground in China because it's right there. You're not putting on a boat,
and that was
on a plane, having to go to
and that's the dynamic. Is I watch Steven Crowder on a regular basis. I'm a Mug Club member.
Louder with Crowder. He's a Michigan guy originally, right?
Well, by way of Canada and so, but yeah, he's got deep roots in Michigan. Anyways, we get the mug when you become a Mug Club member, right? You get the mug and it says Louder with Crowder. And he came on one of the shows and he says, look, guys, he says, I want to be totally upfront with you. He says, I literally cannot get these mugs in America.
The mug itself.
The mug itself. He says, we buy the mugs from China, ship them over here. We have
get your logo.
They put the logo and do because you know how the mugs are. Right. They have they basically router them out,
the inscription on,
and then they put an epoxy in that routed out thing, and then you get the mug. And he says, we tried to find anybody. We can't get the mugs here. The only place we can get them is China. So I would love to buy it here in America. There's nobody literally manufacturing it. And that's one of the things that they're dealing with is I want to buy American. I want to support American business. I want to support, but when we farmed out 80% of our manufacturing to other countries, I'm wearing a pair of jeans right now that were either made in Vietnam or in Thailand.
Yeah.
Yeah,
a lot of it is you don't even have to choose. Even if you like to spend a little more at the shop for it.
Yeah.
You don't even have that option anymore.
Exactly. And there's a big difference between one of the things that bothered me years ago about the Buy American was it wasn't Buy American. The tone actually was Buy Union. And I go, wait, Union Assembled is not necessarily American made. Because if I want a pair of really nice, comfortable loafers, I'm going to look to the Italians. If I want an exquisite rug, I'm going to look to the Persians. You know what I'm saying? It's like,
no, I know what you mean. Speaking of which, I got a good buddy. Got to give a shout out to Anthony Mano. They've had the suit and tie shop out in Dearborn for 60 something years. A good buddy of mine went to college with him.
Yeah,
but his family. I mean, they were all about having that custom Italian feel.
Yeah,
and to your point, right? I mean, that was one of the beauties of America is being able to have. Even just within Michigan, you could go and get that Italian feel. You could go to down to Dearborn and get kind of the Persian feel as well. The one of the declines of America is when you can't get that stuff here anymore. You're getting the end product, but
you're not getting
you're not getting from start to finish.
And that's a huge difference. And I think that's one of the things you're talking about with your campaign is. And I don't have your pamphlet in front of me.
No, it's all right.
But that idea of bringing back, I think you're pointing out manufacturing, of course, reducing government, all that stuff. But that dynamic of there was never a Buy America or buy American because we understood that you can only. How many people in their homes had the best china?
Right.
Well, what did that mean? Was they were getting cups and plates and dishes from China because they were the best made in the world. Now we're getting the shittiest products from the cheapest countries that we can get it from. This is not the same dynamic as getting the best shoes from
Nope.
Italy or
No,
getting
it's
the
not.
best China from China or getting this product from this country because those products are superior in their country and they're buying what we're making superior and we're doing a trade, right? And that's why we've had such huge trade imbalances throughout this country. And on the way.
No, let me,
Yeah.
if I can build off that a
No,
little
yeah,
bit.
absolutely.
Because I think, for a long time, the argument was, well, this is what we're talking about is free trade. We're opening up our economy. They're opening up their economy.
Mhm.
And everybody gets the benefit because we get the best of what they have and they get the best of what we have. And we get access to products and goods that we wouldn't otherwise be able to access.
Yeah.
And to a certain extent, that was true for a while.
Mhm.
But that became, I think, replaced by this political agenda, this political ideology that said we need to use trade in order to be an extension of certain foreign policies. And these foreign policies, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing inherently, but the question is, what's the intent of that foreign policy? So if you look at our relationship with China in the 1990s and the push to include them into our trade relationships, where we gave them such
Favorite
favorable-
nation
they were
status.
favored nation status. And
Yeah.
the important piece of that is it wasn't really free trade. It wasn't as if you're going to open up your market and we're going to open up our market. It was actually, well, we're going to give you beneficial trade status
Mhm.
and we're going to accept certain losses on the trade front on the hope that you as a growing society are going to westernize because you have McDonald's in your backyards.
Yeah.
And the truth is, as somebody who has his fair share of McDonald's, has been taking advantage of the buy one, get one for $1 deal lately on the campaign trail, which has not been great for my health.
No, fast foods, no matter what you do, you gotta pray Jesus that you're eating by faith. Because that's
that's
what,
right.
like, Lord,
What's
Lord,
the-
I'm expecting this food to be good for me because
But I had your protection around my pancreas, you know.
I hope this doesn't have bug protein.
But oh man, I mean that's a whole
That's a whole
rabbit
nother thing.
there. But the point is,
They do
I'm
have
not
good
saying-
French fries. McDonald's has really, as long as they're hot.
Let's take a vote around the
they
room.
gotta be hot.
I'm going to vote for Burger King having the best French fries.
Oh, yeah.
no, I'm with Larry on the
Yeah,
French fries.
no.
You think
Those-
so?
Yeah.
I'm going to go. My first choices are Burger King, then Wendy's.
Yeah.
Then McDonald's.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Having worked middle management
Making
closing
Dom
shift
think over
at
here
Burger King.
about Wendy's fries.
Well, here Tim getting in here on this too.
Burger King fries, because I've worked middle
Burger King
management
fries.
at Burger King.
You know, I'll say this.
So,
So I had like a
That won't
ban
even
on
eat their
Burger
fries.
King for years.
Mhm.
Although it's funny because it was one of the only fast food restaurants that was open late when I was going to school in Hillsdale. In a little town,
Yeah.
Burger King. But, it was between Burger King and Taco Bell, I'll go to Taco Bell. But
right.
the recent
They're open late.
ads they have.
Yeah.
Whopper.
I can't stand that song.
Well, I tell you, I fell for it like a sucker. And there's a Burger King right down on Grand River,
Mhm.
pretty close to where we're at.
Oh,
So-
right.
There'd be a
you're
few
hitting that one?
nights. There was about a month streak we probably hit that a couple times a week. I'm like, you know what? The burgers actually, I think the burgers at Burger King are actually really good.
Now, did they get rid of their veggie burger, their fake magic burger, Wonder Burger? Whatever?
I never even tried it.
Anyways,
I've heard that's worse for the environment than
dude,
regular
the
burger.
amount of estrogen in one of those burgers is like getting a year's worth of estrogen injections if you want to transition.
Oof.
That's how much estrogen is.
So what you're
in
saying
this.
is
It's bad.
avoid the veggie
Yeah,
burger.
don't eat the vegan burger. Sharon in the chat says Arby's is fries. No, I will say I don't even put Arby's curly fries in the same category because they're just on their own level. The Arby's curly fries to me are like they're on their own level.
So this is
Well,
dangerously
if you like seasoned fries, you just got to go to what is it? Some of them are called rallies and some of them are called checkers.
I can't do curly fries unless it's A&W.
Their seasoned fries are
good.
awesome. Yeah.
See,
heard Tim chime in with A&W. You know, it's funny. I've never had the fries there, but those
Yeah.
Their
chili
fries are good.
dogs.
Their fries are good. Their chili dogs are good.
I go on the chili
But-
dogs.
McDonald's
he was
fries.
talking about the A&W root beer float. I will confess, as a Michigander, I've never had an A&W root beer float.
It's a West
My
Coast
go-to in
franchise.
A&W, that A&W in Fowlerville.
Mhm.
Go-to is 2 chili dogs,
Oh yeah,
cheese loaded up with
yeah.
extra chili, and the
Americana.
full large root beer float.
That
Oh,
sounds,
That's
yeah.
Americana.
dude. We're gonna have to do
Yeah.
that one of these days.
The only thing better than a root beer float
Yeah.
is a Boston cooler.
Go to the Dairy Queen and get a Boston cooler.
What's a Boston cooler?
What is that?
Tell
Sounds
us
like an
that.
alcoholic
What's a
drink.
Boston?
I have had Boston coolers before, but I'm
Yeah.
not sure I could explain.
It's,
We're from Michigan. We got Detroit.
and I'll tell you what, that you can make them at home.
I don't know
I
what
make them at
Boston
home.
looks. What's Boston? A cool Boston cooler look like?
Well,
Yeah.
my
It's
grandfather's
Verner's
Dorchester,
and vanilla
so
ice cream.
it's good.
Verner's is a Michigan company. How is
Yeah.
that? How is that a Boston cooler?
Well, that's an old story, and I can tell it because
Can you do it in under 2 minutes? I'm
Yeah.
timing you.
I
Go.
can do it. I can
Go.
do it real quick.
So it's
So a
ginger
friend of
ale?
mine's family's, a friend of mine's, his grandfather used to work for Verner's Ice Cream, or Verner's Pop Company, and he went to Boston to try and sell Verner's. They wanted to get it out on the coast,
Mhm.
right? And when they got there,
Yes.
they had this huge ice shortage. So he wanted someone to taste it, but they didn't want to taste it warm. They didn't have any ice.
Oh, so he got some ice
plopped
cream.
in some
Ice
vanilla
cream.
ice
Because you
cream.
can make ice cream without any
Yeah.
ice. You can do it with
Yeah.
salt and
But
a
the
couple other
trick
things, mix
is-
some chemicals.
Yeah, the trick is, here's the thing. The trick is you got to get a Boston cooler at the Dairy Queen because anywhere else
Okay.
it's not the same.
Looks like I've got 2 play dates.
Yes.
Right.
Well, I gotta say
Well,
that Dairy Queen on Grand River,
Yeah.
it's open till 10.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Gotta
I
wake
have
up
to-
for nightcap.
Oh.
I don't know where we're going, but
All right.
I mean,
we're gonna be burning rubber to the Dairy
Oh,
Queen.
man. There's a kid who works the Dairy Queen who goes to my church, and I feel terrible because I'm always the guy rolling in at like 9:55.
Yeah.
You're that guy.
I'm that guy. I'm like, sorry, I'm here again this week. Not the first time I've been here this week, but my wife loves the help me out here. The ones they turn upside down. The
Blizzards.
Blizzards.
The blizzards, yeah.
She loves the blizzards.
Yeah.
And
I get confused
My
between the
life.
blizzards and the what do they call them over at
McFlurry.
Culver's? No, the Culvers. They're
Oh, I
called
don't
the
know
concrete
Culver's.
mixers.
oh yeah.
Oh, concrete mixer.
They're both the same, where they're mixed so thick that you can.
Okay.
So I like the blizzards better, but during the summer when Culver's has those like the lemonade strawberry versions, you know what I'm talking about? I'm not sure what they're called, not coolers, but they have the word cooler in my mind, but
Yeah.
it's delicious.
It's
Anyway,
like a
I mean,
slushy or something.
yeah. But bringing this all the way back to the original point,
Well,
as good
before
as all this stuff is, and as much as I like to talk about it,
Yeah.
having good fast food does not make me suddenly feel patriotic American.
Yeah.
I believe in the principles of limited government and personal responsibility.
Right.
So this idea that we're just going to export all of our fast food, and suddenly all these countries were going to love America. But like, we'll take the fast food, and we're still going to push to dominate.
We
which
can't-
is the situation we're now in.
We can't
Right.
indiscriminately
With the Chinese
bomb a
Communist
bunch of people and then ship a KFC and McDonald's to their country and
Right.
expect them to love us.
Why not? I'm just checking.
Says the
I'm
army.
just checking.
I mean, look.
So we-
admittedly, I would if I'm going to get bombed, I'd rather have the KFC and
Yeah.
McDonald's. But to your point is, I mean, this combination of foreign policy adventurism, and I mean, look, I'm running for state house, so
Yeah.
this is not something I can necessarily tie directly in with the job. But this
But
combination,
it will. It does affect.
it does, and there are actually things we can do. There are a couple things that I want to talk about doing at
Yeah.
a state level,
Yeah.
to harden our grid, because 21st century warfare is not going to look like 20th century warfare.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be soldiers on the ground with boots and guns.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
It's going to be civilians facing backed up sewers because the electronics that have been governing our
It's
infrastructure. and our
easier to
grids.
destroy our country through destroying our infrastructure than it is to actually have ground troops on the ground.
Well, yeah, the especially in Livingston County, ground troops on the ground are targets.
Yeah,
That's
they're
all
huge.
they are.
So let me do that. Let's do this.
Before
Tim,
you transition, I had a
go ahead.
theory about that. Well, first of all, I wanted to mention Dairy Queen. I can't let Dairy Queen go by without. I'm sorry, without a shout out to my dad, whose Dairy Queen was his favorite, and every year on the anniversary of his passing, which is coming up in May, it'll be 8 years. Got to go get his soft serve vanilla straight no dip ice cream cone is his go-to. He did it for literally. My dad was 84, so he did it. He kept Dairy Queen in business. He loved that.
Tim, what's the anniversary? In
May 21st. I
May
believe.
21st. I think we're gonna have to make it a date.
Okay.
Yeah.
I gotta say, I think with any ice cream place,
Yeah.
you got to be able to just have the straight vanilla.
Yep.
Oh,
And that's the. It's like going to a good pizza place. Every time I go to a new pizza place,
Mhm.
Yeah.
bring me your cheese. I just want a plain piece of cheese pizza.
Any diner, you try their biscuits and gravy. If they can't do a biscuits and gravy, don't bother doing it.
True.
If you want biscuits and gravy, dude, you got to come to my house because my wife.
No, we're talking about eating out.
No,
I guarantee you. I
Reese's
guarantee you.
Pieces.
My biscuits
Yeah.
gravy, your wife's biscuits gravy are gonna knock anything out of a
No.
restaurant that's mass producing stuff.
It's an
We're
easy way
talking
to.
about we judging these places
Skip
by
a
the fact
restaurant,
that
yeah.
listen, if this tastes close, you guys are good. 'Cause
But
you're
no,
doing this on a mass
the theory I had, I wanted to chime in on was the taking down of the infrastructure of the United States. And as I watch these college campuses self-destruct,
Yes.
I believe with the infiltration of the hearts and minds of America is the way that foreign powers are going to try to make us destroy ourselves.
Agreed.
I can see that. I agree with you, buddy.
And if I want to build up, I'm going to build off that point a little bit
Yeah, go ahead.
because it's not just what foreign influences have wanted to do to make us destroy ourselves.
Yeah.
It's what domestic influences have wanted to do
Oh,
to make us
absolutely.
destroy ourselves. Our greatest threat's never going to be from without.
Correct.
It's always going to be from within.
Well, you go
Isn't
back
that-
far
isn't
enough,
that
you're
what Lincoln said?
Absolutely.
Yes.
I mean, Lincoln's the original Republican.
Yeah.
I mean, Lincoln was the guy who said, look, we need to put our national interests first.
Yep.
We need to make sure we're protecting our American workers. We have to make sure that we're protecting our national integrity.
And he was so right that they assassinated him because he was just like Jackson with Jackson's flaws as far as slavery. But Lincoln was right there with, and Lincoln's, people don't know this. They flies underneath the radar, but Lincoln said, I don't care about slavery. He said, I want to protect the Union. I want to protect
Right.
the freedoms of the country.
the togetherness.
Well, he did
but
take
he
the
said-
Democrat slaves away.
Well, but here's the thing. He said, but if freeing the slaves, because he didn't own slaves, and even those our founding fathers that owned slaves, there's stories behind that. A lot of them inherited, and slavery was a universal thing. It's so there are more slaves in the world today, and mostly sex slavery, than there ever the history, our recorded history right now. There are more slaves today than in recorded history, and yet
Well, you got
we
quite a
vilify.
you got quite a border there.
Well, there's that. But my point is that Lincoln said, I want to preserve the Union and what our founding fathers set forth. That's why by his Gettysburg Address, he said, but if it means freeing every slave, then I'll do it. The interesting thing is people don't know that Lee said, I abhor slavery, but he chose to be, in fact, Lincoln wanted General Lee to be the leader of the
Union general,
forces.
yeah.
Mhm.
And so there's all these dynamics all the time through all these conflicts, and people don't get this. But Lincoln was fighting predominantly against the banks. You know who was funding the South predominantly? Great Britain.
Mhm.
We were only
Huge
50
part of
years
that.
removed from the War of 1812 and only 70-ish, 75 years removed from the War of Independence.
Yep.
So, I mean, these dynamics, they wanted to reoccupy the country, recontrol the country. And we've had that.
I want to bounce off that a little bit.
Yes, sir.
because, honestly, my favorite class I ever took in college was Abraham Lincoln, Dr. Kevin Porteous. If anybody participates or has ever enjoyed.
And for
Hillsdale-
clarification, you went to Hillsdale.
Hillsdale, class of 2016.
Yeah.
Great college.
I love that college.
They have a fantastic online series. I think
That's
Dr.
how I'm familiar with them.
the online
Is
series.
I get the emails and I get their online series and the stuff that they do on the Constitution, the stuff that's phenomenal.
Well, I think because there's an entire re-education
Yeah.
that our society is
Stuff
lacking
you'll
just on basic
never
civics.
get.
No,
in a
yeah,
regular
no
parochial.
classes on gender studies.
Thank you, Larry.
Well, actually, let me tie that in a little bit because, of course, that is what's happening right now. Is we have this influence coming in from Lansing, coming in from DC, coming in from these kind of.
Well, Dom, where'd that all come from? That's,
Well-
I mean, you go back far enough, the influence of the Frankfurt School and Freudian psychology and Marxist thought
Yes.
came into our collegiate institutions, even the Christian ones. My first year of school was Christian as well, and it's in all of them, and it's rampant.
It's
Well,
over influence, but you're right.
From a political standpoint, if you look back at when the left first went after education, because they went after
Project
education.
Paperclip,
Right.
Nazis came over, Frankfurt School, all of those Nazis and the leftist, Marxist, Freudian psychology went into the colleges. That's
Well,
what it all
absolutely.
happened.
I'm going to take it a little bit further back than then too. I'm going to push and say that this was, if you look at Woodrow Wilson's priorities
Yeah.
as
Yes.
president, one of the earliest progressive movements at the
Oh, that would
turn
make sense. Sure.
of the 20th century, Woodrow Wilson had this priority of putting more of a federal role into
Right.
education, because of course education was at the time so incredibly local. It was very community oriented.
Right.
And I actually
You
want to.
almost had homeschool locations.
Well, the church.
You almost had where Farmer Joe and his wife couldn't,
Right.
you know, but they would go,
Or
well,
the
just
church
go over,
schoolhouse.
just go over here to
Yeah.
the schoolhouse for
Church
a couple
schoolhouse.
hours and then come back to the
Well, 'cause
farm.
you can go around Livingston County. There's this beautiful little schoolhouse off, I want to say, Heine Road,
Mhm.
up in Brighton Township.
Yeah, they're great for weddings.
There you go. Right,
Yeah.
great for weddings, but at the time, right, you'd have, maybe 20 students in there. My
Yep.
my father-in-law grew up in Nebraska, out in the Sandhills, kind of one of the few areas that's still, in a way, very
Extreme
similar,
rural.
extremely rural.
Yeah.
And he grew up going to a schoolhouse, one of those old school schoolhouses,
Yeah.
a dozen kids, half of them were his siblings.
Yeah.
And it was all the local farmers who'd pool the resources for the schoolhouse and put their kids in there together.
Yeah.
It was often
If
first
I was in a class
third
with,
grade.
with a dozen kids,
You got
more than
booted.
half of them would have been my siblings.
There you go. Big family, Larry. Well, I'm the oldest of 8, so there's a few of us in the
You're what?
Restuccia
How many?
clan. We got 8. We got 4 boys, 4 girls, 1 short of fielding a baseball team. So
Okay.
Well,
My dad
I
could pitch,
commend you
so-
on that level because you are securing the population.
We have 5. We have
You're
5
supporting the
boys and 4 girls.
how many?
5 boys and 4 girls.
5 and 4. So you can fill a full baseball team.
Mhm.
There you go.
I'm
With a
second
couple-
of
So-
second of 9.
Continue this
Actually-
thought process with the Hillsdale and
that's a
and the
co-ed
dynamic of it.
So
That's a co-ed softball team with a rover.
there you go with the rover. There you
with
go.
the rover, yeah.
Which is critical in
Critical.
softball when they
There
have
it
really
is.
good hitters.
Yeah, it
But
is.
the point with the Hillsdale classes though is, so Lincoln was one of my favorite classes,
Yeah.
and I thought in my studies of Lincoln, I don't know if Dr. Porteous has done a Hillsdale class online about Lincoln, but I think he's one of the most important figures to study in this day and age because I think we're at a time when there are such deep divisions over the direction of our country, over and it goes beyond public policy, the questions of what's right and wrong and what's just and unjust.
Absolutely.
And at the time, of course, there was a very strong abolitionist movement
Huge.
opposed to the injustice of
Yeah.
slavery. And I think rightfully so.
Absolutely. Well, it
But if
was
you look-
it was within our founding documents. It was there. The dynamics to be able to do that were there, but they knew that they couldn't found the country with that as part of the provisions of it. So they said, we're going to put that to the back burner. But because there was so much slavery throughout the world, and you're coming out of not just straight up slavery, but chattel slavery. You're coming out of the feudalism systems where the lords own everything and you're just basically a sharecropper in those terminologies. And so they couldn't just do away with slavery, even though there was a huge movement throughout the world to get away with slavery. And our founding fathers knew, they're like, look, we need to get rid of this at a certain point, but we can't do it now.
Well, to your point, even at the time of the founding,
Yeah.
there were divisions on slavery, right? I mean, there
Absolutely.
was John Jay, who was a strong abolitionist.
Yeah.
And then there were founders who were also much more pro
Yes.
slavery. And of course, you look at the elements within the Constitution, they were largely elements of compromise between those who abhorred slavery and those who depended upon slavery.
Yeah.
And to your point, in terms of the time of the Civil War, there were obviously so many factors going in terms of foreign policy and economics. But the underlying thesis that I really wanted to drive home was that if you juxtapose Lincoln and the major abolitionists of his time,
Mhm.
people remember Lincoln.
They do.
And if you look at some of the abolitionists that are remembered at the time, such as Frederick Douglass,
Correct.
they
Huge.
were
Yeah.
not the ones who simply railed into the night at great injustice. They were the ones who took elements of the founding,
Mhm.
who recognized that the pursuit of a more perfect union and of a better country, it was actually
was
based,
going to be predicated on the freedom of all people at a certain point.
which was uniquely printed into our United States Constitution and
Absolutely.
Declaration of Independence.
Absolutely. And most people misunderstand the dynamic of the 3/5 principle.
Right.
Because the southern states wanted to include their slaves who didn't have full
Voting
status,
population purposes.
full population status.
Or they never
They
even heard
wanted
of it.
to, just like they're doing now with people coming across the border, they're like, well, we want to include them in the census and give them voting rights. But we don't want to, but they came across illegally, they violated all, and I go, wait, this is just like the 3/5. And I've heard people look at, I've had these discussions where they go, well, the Republicans thought we were, or even before there was Republicans, they're like, they didn't even consider us full people. No. the Southern landowners only wanted to count you as 3/5, or only wanted to count you for their census,
It was political.
so they can get seats
Right.
in Congress and control things.
It was using people for political power.
Correct, but they didn't want to give you full citizenry. And the compromise on the Republican or the right side of that was to say, if you're not going to give them full status as citizens, then we're only going to count them as 3/5, meaning for every 50 people you put up in your census, we're only going to count 30 of them. Well, that's not unfair. You're not true. Give them full status, give them full voting rights. Well, we're not going to do that. Well, then.
And the frustrating part, Jeremy,
Yeah.
and this kind of gets back to what you're talking about, Larry, is instead of delving into the intricacies and nuance and the challenges, and by the way, good, bad, and ugly of our country, right? All it is we now get a presentation, or especially for my generation,
Right.
the presentation is, things like the 1619 Project, where all we talk about is the systemic injustices. All we talk about is as if our country is
Always been this horrible.
And
You said
that's-
systemic injustices.
right, exactly.
It's always been bad.
And there's no recognition of
The progression.
and how critical, not just the progression, but how critical.
Yeah.
It's not as if, well, we're suddenly much more better people today
Right.
than we were way back then. With what within the context of their time and what the challenges that they were facing,
Yeah.
the founding fathers gave us a blueprint to
Phenomenal.
pursue the freedoms that we have today.
Look at the Dark Ages, and then look at the Magna Carta in, what was it, 1247, something
Should
like
know
that,
that,
whatever it
but
is.
yeah.
I should know that too. But look, the Magna Carta, and then you move through progressions, and you look at the back and forth with other, and they're trying to bring in Parliament and throughout Europe and all, and you go, you don't realize, yes, and we're the one country that apologizes all the times for the mistakes, and we go, wait a minute. I do like this quote from I don't know
Magna
if
Carta
it's
was
directly
1215.
1215.
You're pretty close. 1247, 1215. I mean, you're within
I was in the 12.
like 30 years. Yeah,
But I look at this quote, and I don't know if it's Alex has originated, but Alex Jones says, he says, we're the best house in a bad neighborhood.
Mhm.
And that's his way of softening and saying, look, you know what? We've got some flaws, we've got some failures. And I think we have far more flaws and failures today than we had in 1776,
Sure.
far more. Or even in 1850, 1860, far more flaws and failures today, because we have an incremental encroaching government that's re-enslaving a population through quiet, behind the scenes incremental steps,
Right.
versus an outright. I mean, our country was founded on opposing two taxes. Look at your cell phone bill.
Mhm.
There are 4 to 10 taxes, depending on who your carrier is. 4 to 10 taxes on your cell phone bill.
Well,
Then look at all your other stuff.
And I want to tie that into something that I've been talking about a little bit on the campaign trail. So I'm in real estate. I'm a third generation realtor, work at Griffith Realty, which is a 4-generation shop. So
Okay.
James Dooling, who's Carol Griffith's son, has me beat as a 4th generation realtor. Was also realtor of the year last year for Michigan, which was very impressive. But I've encountered so many people who are just sick and tired of having to put up with what they've had to put up with in Michigan, not just for the last couple of years, frankly, but for decades.
Right.
Just had a guy in Brighton. He had this beautiful little ranch downtown, lived there since the 90s, lived in Michigan his whole life. And finally, he's like, you know what? I'm done. Found a place down in Kentucky. No income tax, paying less on his sales tax, paying less on his pension tax. And now we've eliminated the pension tax.
Yeah.
And
Paying less than property tax.
property taxes lower. And the closing costs were lower for him down in Kentucky because their title transfer tax fee is lower there than it is up here.
Mhm.
Meanwhile, as hard as it is to buy a house in Michigan,
Yeah.
the plan from the Democrats and Gretchen Whitmer right now is to increase our title transfer tax fee
Oh, really?
to give Michigan another $50 million a year so they can go build subsidized housing, because that's their solution to all of our problems. We got housing problems. What are we going to do? We'll go create another government program. We'll take more money out of the taxpayer's back pocket, and we're going to go create more government programs. And that's that is the philosophy
Yeah.
that has driven not just this administration,
Yeah.
but it's the way that the state of Michigan has trended over time. And that's both a Republican problem and a Democrat problem.
Absolutely. Well, we had this dynamic of being a manufacturing state. Well, even before that, my ancestors, my grandfather and great grandfather, they worked in the mines. You know, my family's from Ironwood, Michigan. Two things.
Is that Upper Peninsula?
That's all the way over. That's
Ironwood. That's like
Ironwood.
Iron Mountain.
Literally, Ironwood is 2/3 of the city, and the other third of the city is Hurley, Wisconsin.
Central Standard Time.
So
Yes, you're an hour over into that, and so the
That's
dynamics.
God's country up there, I tell you.
That's where I go fishing.
That's beautiful.
That's where I go fishing.
That's
Because
good spot to
grandpa's.
fish.
That's where grandpa's.
so Dom, I got a question here.
Sure.
Can you elaborate on what you want to do about the asylum seekers coming to our state?
You mean the people who are being coached by NGOs on our taxpayer dollar at the
That
southern
would be the
border?
one. And
The 9 million people that have come in the last
And then-
3 years
yeah.
alone.
The
We had
newcomers.
300,000 border crossings in December of last year
Yeah.
right.
alone. And so I did put out a bit of a game plan of what I think we
50,000
should do.
Chinese nationalists.
Say it again, Tim.
50,000 Chinese nationalists.
Isn't it incredible? I mean,
Ridiculous.
let me take if we can delve into immigration for a minute, because I do think that this is frankly the issue that is going to get President Trump reelected.
Yeah.
Which I'm glad to get President Trump reelected, but it's unfortunate that it's going to be under these circumstances.
Yeah, you
Because-
don't want. It's the Kennedy versus Kennedy and Reagan versus.
Not Robert.
I didn't want to call up any of these other ones.
No,
but-
not Robert
but-
Kennedy.
No, JFK.
Right.
JFK and Reagan both ran on "We can do better."
Right.
And they were right. There's been so many other politicians, presidential, of course, included in that ran on "It's bad, it's bad, it's bad," and Trump is still running on "Make America Great Again."
Right.
And yet he's not trying to focus on it. But you're exactly right. There's this dynamic of these bad things are going to make our good candidate look even better, but at the same time, that's not what you want to. It's like,
Our country's
why do we
our
want to
country's
let
being
things
pushed to
fall
the
apart
brink.
and be
And this shouldn't really be a Republican versus Democrat issue.
exactly?
So, but Larry, let me do a little table setting and then answer the question. So,
Mhm.
I am a little bit about my background. So I'm a lifelong Michigander, but I did spend 4 years working in Washington, D.C. My first week was a week before President Trump's inauguration. My last week was a few years before the 2020 election. So I worked for Congressman Mike Bishop. I
Okay.
worked for Senator Mike Lee as his national security advisor. And one of my top priorities for both members was national security and border security. And especially, I mean, both members had this idea. We've become so as a country, not really in the homeland, but if you look at Washington, D.C.'s military priorities and foreign policy priorities,
Right.
it's about projecting power overseas and becoming entangled in the Middle East and Europe. And we have our own problem right here on our southern border that frankly has been ignored
Yeah.
for decades, which is a huge reason of why
Huge.
Trump
Yep.
even had to run in the first place in 2015, 2016, is because Republicans had failed to recognize how critical this issue was.
Yeah, and we're a border state too.
We are a border state. And frankly, the northern border, it's mostly New Hampshire and Maine, but the northern border is also a massive vulnerability, especially in terms of fentanyl trafficking.
Mhm.
And fentanyl, well, let me take a quick step back and then jump into the modern issue, because if you look at the backdrop for illegal immigration, 2000s, George Bush is president,
Mhm.
illegal immigration is happening, is predominantly Mexican day laborers coming in and leaving, right? Seasonal migration.
Yeah.
Still a problem, still illegal, still something we should have cracked down at the time.
But a
And we did-
huge income for the Coyotes. that it
Huge
wasn't
income,
really- yeah.
which that,
Well-
Tim, you're right into my point. By not cracking down on it then, we created,
Mhm.
by failing to act,
Mhm.
this entire ecosystem at the northern
Yep.
border of Mexico, our southern border, but their northern border, where groups like the Sinaloa cartel
Mhm.
Yeah.
would be able to grow into basically a multinational
Mhm.
organization.
Originally, it was just independent coyotes, and the cartel's like, holy crap, shipping people to America makes more money than our drugs.
Right.
Let's do that.
No different than when we outlawed alcohol during
Yes.
Prohibition
Yes.
and built the mob
Yes.
into the powerhouse that they became for 40,
Well, the
50
Biden
years.
administration is like waving the welcome flag and telling them, come out, come one, come all, handing them checks, putting them on airplanes and sending them
Yep.
to
Well,
states like Michigan, where our idiot governor is paying people $500 a month to
It's a-
house them.
It's a line item in the budget. But it's not just, I mean, the concern is not just that we're asking people to house them, that the government's asking people to house asylum seekers.
Asking our state
Yep.
citizens to
Citizens.
house them.
It goes,
Take
but
in-
it also goes.
And what's
Taken
this asylum
A
seekers?
political
They're
refugees.
illegals. We have a clarification in the chat. Mr. Coffee wants to point out that they're not illegals.
What? They're newcomers?
They're newcomers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He likes plucking that string.
Well, and this gets to the point I wanted to build on a little bit, which is if you look at then the Obama era illegal immigration, right? It took a shift. You had massive because
You said shift, right?
shift
Oh,
shift
okay.
from.
I mean, it could have been.
There was
yeah.
an
Shifty
F
shift?
in that word. Got
Shifty
it.
Shift.
shift.
Yeah.
There was a shift from illegal immigration coming from Mexico,
Most
seasonal
Obama
labor,
took a shit.
to predominantly illegal immigration coming from El Salvador, Honduras,
Right.
Guatemala,
Right.
Nicaragua,
Right.
the Triangle states,
Right.
where crime had skyrocketed to such an extent, largely because
Venezuela. Yep.
fed by our taxpayer, paid by our dollars because we were failing to address our southern border issue.
Yeah.
They were becoming strong and powerful because of the human trafficking and the fentanyl trafficking, the drug trafficking that they were able to have across the border.
Absolutely.
And today it's gotten to the point where it's no longer simply human trafficking and drug trafficking from Central America. It's from across the world.
It is.
And we have no idea who's coming across the border.
Hamas.
And
Chinese.
now Chinese nationals.
So we have some idea.
Yep.
Military.
But we don't know.
But to your point,
Right.
Oh yeah.
that we don't have a clear idea what's going on, but it's no longer a whole bunch of Central and South Americans. We've got people from all nationalities, and of course the NGOs are doing this to bring them in. And we're looking at, I mean, they just issued another thing. We had our sheriff come out 2 months ago talking about be prepared because we could have some domestic
Yep.
incidences.
Yep.
And they just issued another alert over this weekend that we just went through that there could be some type of terrorist events. We've got Dearbornistan over there with people standing up shouting about that we got to, death to America. Well, you know what? Death to America, then get out of my country.
Yeah.
If you don't like it here, listen, I'll pay for your ticket. Get the hell out.
Well, and the problem is, it's not the hatred of America that we see that's popping up all these college campuses. It's not. There's an underlying message there as well. It's not even really necessarily entirely about the Israel-Hamas dynamic.
Right.
A lot of it is cover for what is an anti-American, pro-socialist, communist agenda.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's
Dom,
being
it's even
pushed.
worse than that. I do media for other groups, and I actually pulled a clip where it's actually some of that college stuff is even under ignorance, where they're being interviewed
the
and
one
saying,
clip where she said, I don't even know why I'm out here.
So I don't know. We're interviewing to support the Palestinians and to stop the college from doing. What are they doing? She asked her friend. And so I don't know. I wish I was better educated. Yeah, me too. I don't know why we're out here.
Cut to my
Hey,
screen,
there
Tim.
you go.
Cut to my screen, Tim.
Yeah.
This is AOC, and she's like, I want to fight climate change. And James Wood's like, be honest. I am being honest. Be honest. I want communism. Thank you. You're just,
exactly.
And what is communism? You think it's free stuff, but it's the epitome and the pinnacle of slavery.
Somebody is always paying for it.
Somebody's paying for it.
There's always a check that
Never
comes
get
due.
that stuff.
It's never free.
They never get that stuff.
And we've lost the mentality that government spending is actually taxpayer dollars, and that's part of this dynamic.
Right.
But on illegal immigration layer, because I never actually really
Let's
answered the
finish
question
this
about
one,
what we
and I got a couple points.
do about what we actually do about it from state level, because traditionally immigration is reviewed as perceived as simply a federal issue.
Mhm.
I think that some of our states like Texas, Florida, Arizona, under the previous administration, demonstrated there are steps that border states can take specifically in terms of border security.
Yeah.
And a state like ours, where really our issue has not necessarily been people coming across
From Canada.
knock on wood, but using the Canadian border into Michigan.
Right.
Although, again, there are people coming across our northern border from Canada into New Hampshire and Maine. But from what we can do here in Michigan, we have to use our budget process to clamp down on illegal immigrants coming. We have to use our budget process to say appropriations are not going to be made for programs that are going to help to relocate illegal immigrants into the state of Michigan. Another piece of this I think is critical, because we talk a lot about sanctuary cities.
Yeah.
We should actually talk about what does it mean to be a sanctuary city? Because it's not, being a sanctuary city is not as simple as saying, oh, I'm a sanctuary city. It's not not a label or an identifier, right? I identify this way. I identify as a sanctuary city. It's a specific set of public policy that says, as a local jurisdiction, like the city of Ann Arbor, our police force, if we apprehend somebody who is clearly in the country illegally,
Right.
our local police force cannot communicate with immigration and customs enforcement.
Can't inform ICE, can't inform immigration, can't inform anybody.
They
Wait,
can't or
what?
won't.
What?
In
Can't
the
or won't?
case
Yeah.
of Ann
Well,
Arbor, the city council passes an ordinance saying,
So,
Ann Arbor PD, if you pick up somebody who's here illegally,
correct.
right? This guy, you have breaking and entering. You show up. It turns out that the person's here illegally. They don't have papers. They don't have a driver's license. They have.
Sir, do you know why I pulled you over today?
Well, that ordinance
Me-
is
No,
unconstitutional.
habla español.
That
No
ordinance is
habla
unconstitutional.
inglés. No, here's the thing. What he was saying is you're both right.
Mhm.
Can't or won't.
Right.
Yes, because the city council tells them what to do.
Right.
They're run by the city
Dom,
council.
turn towards
therefore they
Jeremy a little
can't.
bit more, please.
Right.
They
That's where
can't-
the police chief should step up and say, "You can't force
But
me
we're
to
not talking about the
violate my."
police chief.
Well,
We're
here's what I'm
talking about the. Go ahead.
This is
Finish
what
your-
I
finish your-
want to get done. This is what I want to work on at a state level, because this is something that I had done some work on at a federal level when I was working for Congressman Bishop and Senator Mike Lee, is making sure that local law enforcement has an obligation to communicate
Mhm.
with immigrations and customs enforcement, and then preempt
No matter who they
local
are.
municipalities
Just
from
it's sending an
creating
email.
those kind of blocks. Because it was twofold, right? It was creating that notification, but then
Yeah.
it was also complying with detainer requests that
Mhm.
immigration and customs enforcement would issue. So I think this is actually much better at a state level, because at a federal level, 10th Amendment, I'm a big states' rights guy.
Yeah.
There is an issue with the federal government coming in and saying, your local law enforcement has to comply with our federal government. I actually think there are some issues with that from a constitutional standpoint. So I think it's much better for a state to say, at the state level, we're saying that local municipalities cannot instruct local jurisdictions from cooperating and communicating with immigrations and customs enforcement. And I think that we should help to make sure that the resources are there, because look,
Right.
when we get President Trump back in November,
Mhm.
part of if we're going to address not just future illegal immigration, stop think about it, like we're in a basement and one of the pipes that burst, we have water flowing in. Well, first thing you got to do is stop the flow.
Yeah.
But you're now also standing in
A puddle.
9 million inches of water in your basement. We have
Right.
9 million illegal immigrants that have come just in the last
On the
3
record.
years that we know about.
Yeah.
So
Some estimates are upward of 22 million.
so the point is,
Mhm.
there's going to have to be interior enforcement in order to ensure that our laws are being followed. And a lot of that's going to fall back upon local law enforcement, because it's going to be local law enforcement that often encounters people who are here illegally. And so we're going to
Yeah.
need to ensure that they have the resources and the training to cooperate with immigrations and customs enforcement.
Now
So
let me ask you this question. 'Cause that's a great point.
Before you ask, just to clarify, you skimmed over. He mentioned he dropped the 10th Amendment, but for the uneducated viewers, just to let people know, it's just in
Give me the
reference
10th
to
Amendment.
10th Amendment.
Those not reserved. Yeah. go
Yeah,
ahead.
it's those that aren't reserved to the federal are left to the states to enforce
And
amongst
to the people.
and to the people. Yeah.
And to the people, specifically to the people.
Yeah.
But I want to clarify this, because we've had some dynamics where our states are trying to do Green New Deal type shit in our
Michigan
coming through-
included.
Michigan included, and so they're trying to usurp the local communities.
Right.
So the one legitimate, and I'm
No,
hearing
please.
you.
This is
No,
good.
no, I'm hearing you. That the one legitimate thing that the federal government, or the two legitimate things that our federal government is responsible for, is any type of threat outside, right? The protect our country from outside collectively. If we get attacked from outside, foreign country, that's the purview of the federal government. And immigration as a collective from outside. And so when you're talking about, we need to have a provision where we communicate with the federal government on those dynamics.
Other than regulation of
I'm
interstate
in
commerce.
100% agreement, but I'm sure you're on the same page as there's this really jacked up imbalance to where they want to tell us that they're going to come in and put 100 acres of solar panels in,
340,000 acres.
and yet they won't
Right.
force Ann Arbor or something like that to tell ISIS that they got a bunch of illegals in here.
To your point, I think
Yeah.
we've inverted the constitutional responsibilities, both
Exactly.
our state constitution and federal constitution.
Correct.
Where, you know, we talk a lot as conservatives about limited government, and sometimes we need to go deeper than just talking about limited government.
Mhm.
We need to talk about constitutional government. Government that is strong where it actually is meant to be strong,
Correct.
and weak where it's meant to be weak.
I like that.
Or silent where it's meant to be
Right.
silent.
Because the limited government just doesn't mean anarchy or trusting people to do the right thing. You know, we talked about it, and I don't want to do this deep where we're going. I don't want to go too deep into Goshen, but we talked a little bit about it at dinner where Goshen, from this dynamic that's on the western side, and we oppose the battery facility. They took over their whole township. They took over their whole whatever it was, their township or their whatever their makeup was.
Yeah, it was their township board. Yeah.
Yeah, so they took it over.
Took over the supervisor.
Right, and they're like,
position, they flipped
listen,
all
you
the
guys are allowing
trustees.
this to come in. We're done with that. That's so the partnership, and that's what you're talking about, is the partnership between, okay, Ann Arbor's out of control. Right. We know that. Right. We know what's going on there, and it's a very liberal mecca and everything like that. And until it completely collapses and they're not funded by outside forces that are actually working and funneling the money in, they're going to keep going with their progressive dynamics, right? We know that. We know leftists show up in places that are prosperous and implement their policies until it collapses, and they move to the next one like a parasite. So we know that dynamic. But what you're talking about is that these places are not being obligated to be accountable.
Mhm.
And then we have to do the dynamics of what is accountability, right? When we're talking about illegals coming in to Ann Arbor, and their city councils are voting or their township councils are voting, and they're saying, well, you're forbidden from telling, you know, ICE and immigration that you've got a bunch of illegals and you've got to turn them free, and they might rape 15 girls in our community, but we're a sanctuary county, so I guess that's good.
We had a sexual assault. I mean, I think that Sheriff Murphy and Prosecutor Reeder have done a fantastic job.
Yeah.
In terms of protecting Livingston County.
Judge Hattie didn't.
Well,
All right, that's but we've got some good ones.
The main point I was going to make is there's only so much we can do as a county when, I mean, maybe we can shoot to the overhead shot real quick, right? When we got, for people not familiar with Livingston County, people who are listening outside, here's Livingston County, you got Brighton, we got Howell, we got 96 that runs right through.
Right.
We've got Oakland County.
Yeah.
Immediately to our east, we got Washtenaw County right to our south. We got Ingham County right to our west, and we got Genesee County right to our north. Shiawassee County takes up a little bit of a sliver here.
Yeah.
The truth is, we have a prosecutor in Oakland County
We got blue all around us.
who's not prosecuting to the full extent of the law. So often dumbing down charges on people who are committing substantial crimes.
Yeah.
That then go on to commit more substantial crimes because they're not being fully prosecuted. We have a prosecutor in Washtenaw County
which
who's
is ridiculous.
yeah, I mean, he's an Ann Arbor liberal professor who's found himself as a George Soros funded candidate. into
Marxist
political power.
trained. Yep.
Yeah.
And so you have crime that then coming up 23, you got crime that then coming along 96, and you have in Ingham County, you also have a prosecutor who's failing Carol Simon, who's basically
And
saying
she's
we're simply not going to enforce a law on certain crimes. We're not going to prosecute you over certain crimes, which
that's the whole Michigan State
lawlessness.
shooting was all about that.
Because you wouldn't enforce
And it
the law.
literally
the laws as they were.
Whitmer's in the pipeline of that whole breakdown of the MSU shooter.
Whitmer's deep in the pipeline of
Deep in that
Nasser
pipeline.
issue as well. The reality is there's a consistent thing here. Don't enforce the law. This is kind of the leftist thought. Don't enforce the law. Cut people breaks. Go create a bunch more new laws. So you're always growing government. You're not actually keeping communities safe. Because you know what? I think that whether you're Republican, I mean, I've been hitting a lot of doors, talking to a lot of voters here the last couple of months as a candidate. And Republican, Democrat, Independent, a consistent theme. Not everybody agrees with me on everything. Actually, nobody agrees with me on everything. As my wife would say, Dom, the only person who agrees with you 100% of the time is you.
Right
and
now.
even then,
right now.
Give me a couple of weeks, I'm like, I was probably wrong about that, right? Like, so
it's the mark of an educated mind to entertain a thought without embracing it. And if you don't entertain a thought, then you can't be provoked. The word repentance in scripture, which most preachers like to talk about repentance, they don't realize that the word repentance, in English, it means to feel bad about past sins. But in the Greek, it simply means to think differently or change your mind. And so Christ in the Greek was calling us to think differently or change our mind. And you don't have to feel bad or have an emotional response or even do a wrong to understand that, you know what, I need to change my thought process about this. And so
that's a good point.
And so my thing is, I don't agree with myself 5 years ago, 10 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Now I've been steeped in the church and studied for years, 30, 35 years. So I haven't had to modulate a lot. But there are still some major things that I went, oh, what? I have to adjust.
Right.
So to say that we're going to agree with people, it's the same thing with Trump. It's the same thing with a lot of people. It's like, you know what? I'm not going to agree with you on everything, but are you at your core, your heart, looking to represent the people that your constituency?
Right.
And that's a dynamic running for office that's huge. Do you want to finish this point?
Yeah,
I want to shift gears.
let me build on that a little bit, and then we can
go
shift
ahead.
gears because it's two-pronged. One is just in terms of people talking to people at doors about common ground. What I have found is that most people agree on certain common objectives.
80-90%.
They want safe communities.
Yep.
They want good schools.
Yeah.
Of course.
They want to have a strong economy.
Yes.
Sure.
We don't have none of that.
Everybody's hurting
No.
right now.
Well, the
amount
economy
of,
is fluctuating because of
the
it's
amount of non-Trump people
falsely
right
built
now.
up.
Yes, the amount of non-Trump people that are going previously
Right.
that are coming out going, I just want cheap gas prices and less grocery prices.
I'll take the mean tweets and the cheap gas again because you know
You are right.
what they've seen during COVID, what's happening in our schools.
Yeah.
Where we have a social ideology that I really think has been pushed by this. When I say a minority, what I want to mean is, I don't think that most people actually think these things. I think that it's a highly motivated, very active social group.
Yes.
That is
If
within
you
our
ever want to see a
bureaucracy.
dynamic of peer pressure, look at the woke DEI movement in our country right now. That is all peer pressure.
Because
the
if you
vast
talk to
majority
the
of people
average
don't.
teacher, the average teacher wants
Doesn't
to
believe that
teach math, reading, science. They want to see outcomes for their students.
Not only that,
they're not making a ton of. My mom was a teacher in Detroit.
Yeah.
Didn't make a ton of money doing that.
Not only that,
Right?
the vast majority of people that are genuine teachers that are genuine that I've met, they want to tap into the creativity of the kids in front of them, help them excel and
They're
become
there
better.
for the kids,
Yeah.
right? And what we've done, by failing at a public policy level, is we've allowed this leftist ideology to force itself into our schools, and to undermine the integrity, I think, of our educators, but two, I think it's also been infiltrating the minds of our kids. I think a minority of students today, I'm getting off on a little bit of rabbit hole of what I was
No, you're
hoping
good.
to say, but I do think that, well, let me come back to that point a little bit later, but I want to make like a 3-step point, which is the first we have.
Make your 3-step point, and I want to make sure everybody understands out there. Dom, you're here. Of course, you're running for office. Christina was here last week. Jason's going to be on at some point in the future. You're the 3 main candidates
Maybe.
going on there. But the dynamic is, and I've said this from day one, I want to have a conversation. I had a great conversation with Christina and Dan last week. I'm having a great conversation with you. And that's what I want.
Absolutely.
And then everything else flows out of that. So I want you to make your 3 points, but I wanted to point that out as I'm about having a conversation.
Great.
And more to the point, I want you to say this and then come back to your 3 points. I want you to say this. You said this right at the start of the show, when we were getting ready for the show. You made this statement to me, and I want to come back to this because Christina's my friend. I emceed one of her events just the other day. Absolutely loved it.
Good people all over in the primary.
All people, yeah.
Exactly.
And I hung out with Jason on Friday at the VFW hall with a bunch of my veterans. My veterans were there for our normal get together.
Yeah.
And then we hung out with them, and Jason shows up, and I go, I love all of you people. And I'm honestly kind of pissed off that I have to make decisions because I may agree with everybody 80% or 90%, right? And we can get along. And you made this statement at the beginning or before we started the show.
You're talking over dinner.
And I said, listen, you got to say that on the show because that encapsulated for me. And what I said was, you said people are coming up and go, why run? Why Christina's running, Jason's running, you're running. Why run?
Why can't we all just get behind?
Why can't we just get
one
behind
candidate?
one person?
Right.
And you made this statement. Go ahead.
Well, one person in particular I was talking to who made that point, and I said, "Well, that's a fair question. How do you think we should get behind that one person?" And he kind of threw out a couple ideas, like, "Well, maybe we could all endorse. You could trust a couple of leaders to endorse somebody."
Right.
I'm like, that is definitely a way. Although I don't put a lot of stock in endorsements. I generally the only endorsement I care about with 90,000 people in the district is of those people.
Right.
And so I say, well, why don't we let the voters decide who we get behind? We could have a primary, let the voters decide who to get behind, and then we all get behind that person.
And that's what I've heard from you, Jason, and Christina, is that you're all running, you're all committed, you all believe in your heart of hearts that this is something you want to pursue, that you believe it's something you're supposed to do.
Wait, I got it.
But all of you have said, no matter who becomes the general,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to back them. Now you're going to believe that you're going to be the general. Christina's going to believe she's going to be the general. Jason's going to believe he's going to be the general. But the bottom line is, you're all going to answer. And I'll point this out is you were instrumental in helping Vivek come last year.
Mm-hmm.
With Jennifer Smith as our chairperson of the Republican Party here.
Yeah.
We held it over at the barn.
I hope he gets a cabinet position.
That was a
if not
phenomenal event. And a Sunday morning, you pointed this out, a Sunday morning.
We had like 75, 80 people there at 10 a.m. on Sunday. People are at church on Sunday morning.
Church on Sunday mornings. And they came, and Vivek gave a phenomenal speech.
Yep.
He was able to answer questions on the fly, off the cuff, with genuineness, and brought up 3 or 4 things from the questions that I'd not heard from his campaign. Phenomenal stuff. And I said,
super intelligent guy.
And then at a certain point, he realizes, or he sees the poll numbers, right? It was a great thing for them.
Mm-hmm.
I was hoping the Red Wings got into the playoffs, not because I thought they would go to the Stanley Cup, but because they would get the experience.
Right.
All right. Here's Vivek getting into the race, and he's getting the experience.
Yep.
Now he's one of Trump's biggest cheerleaders, and that's what I look at. But I love that statement from you, because I struggle with that. You know what I'm saying? I meet people, and I want to have a conversation with people, and I love people,
Yep.
And until you,
and politics really is about people. It's about people.
It's supposed to be.
We were talking about Greek
representation.
A little bit earlier. The Greek word of politics
Mhm.
was really what it meant was people, how people live together.
It comes out of populist, yeah. It has those roots in that dynamic.
So
go ahead. We have a number of questions building up in chat.
All right, so let's do this.
A number of chat.
All right, let's hold those for a second, because I want Dominic. I interrupted to go down that diatribe of conversation because
I'll keep it quick so we can get to the question.
I want you to do your 3 points real quick and do that but I wanted to point out to everybody, look, you guys know me, you tune into the show, and I love all of our loyal followers, and we're going to get to your questions. You're going to read those. But my whole thing on this show is to have a conversation with people, to sit down. We that's why it's so important that we eat dinner together. Not that we have to absolutely every time, but when I have a guest here, I want to make dinner, and I want to break bread
together. Yeah.
And I want to sit and talk. And
Absolutely.
we talked about a bunch of stuff. You asked, Tim was sharing his story, and then you were sharing some of your story, and you asked me, and I got a little bit, and then Larry's always chiming in with something off the wall, and it was great. But those dynamics is, I love people.
Right.
And one of the things that I don't like is conflict. I'll embrace conflict. I'll go after it.
Sure.
But as a peacemaker, James, James chapter 1, that those who, First Peter, sorry, I'm screwing it up. But anyways, those who sow in peace peacemakers who sow in peace raise a harvest of righteousness.
Right.
I've been geared for 30, 40 years to be a peacemaker. So when I see a conflict, I want to rush in there and be a moderator and do that. And so when I see different people running, my first instinct is to retreat because I don't want to be involved.
Sure.
Then my second instinct is to pick a side. But then my overall instinct is to say, okay, how do I make peace? Even if I picked the side, even if I've said, I agree with what you're doing.
Right.
I'm going to go, all right, how do we all get along? And I like that dynamic from all three, everybody. And I don't want to bring everything because we're having a conversation, but I will say that all three candidates I've talked to have all said the same thing. Mm-hmm. And I I posed this to a little bit to Christina last show. And I said, I didn't want her to talk about you or Jason or even non-existent. But I wanted to say, I was like, you guys are going to sit down at a table and 90% at least 95%, you're all going to agree.
Mm-hmm.
So then it comes down to personality. It comes down to dynamics. It comes down to who do you think is going to be the best representation or even popularity from that standpoint. And I go, okay, on that level, but then all of you have said to me privately, publicly, no matter, we're going to run this because I believe that I need to run.
Right.
But then whoever becomes the candidate to run the general, we all need to come together.
Well, I will say that there's now 4 of us in the race, and I am committed to backing any one of the candidates who win, whether it's Jason, Christina, Bob, or myself. And because I think this is part of the American experience.
Well, that's where we have to be. It
opportunity
really
to-
is where we have to be.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, we don't have a bad candidate.
Right.
Yeah,
I like to
correct.
think I'm the best, but
Yeah.
if I don't
Right.
think that, then
Right.
nobody does.
Well,
right?
if you
So
don't think that, then why
what am I
run?
doing? Exactly.
Why run? All right, Dominic.
I want to push back on one thing you said just a little bit.
Yeah,
'Cause
give me
you had
pushback.
said we'll basically agree on everything, so it comes down to personality. I actually think that this election is largely. I always try to take the personality side out of it as much as possible.
Okay.
Because I think everybody brings something to the table.
Another nuance.
Another new.
Well, that's easy
Yeah.
for a charming guy like you.
Well, that's very nice of you to say, Tim. But I think, frankly, all the candidates in the race have their charisms and their charms.
Mhm.
But I'm really interested in the reason why I ran is because I think the question is who can deliver the best results
Okay.
and what are these different candidates going to prioritize? Because we've been going at this for over an hour now.
1 hour, 12 minutes, and 14 seconds, roughly.
There we go, roughly.
That's when you hit record. Add 3 to 4 minutes to that.
No, I
we've
hit
only
record
touched-
before Larry finished his intro.
Nah, you didn't. Go ahead, Dom.
But we've only touched on a handful of the number of topics that we could talk on.
Oh, there's
Correct.
so many. Yes.
And the truth is,
Well, it's because
even
we're
as
having a conversation, not a stump speech, right?
True,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But even on a stump speech, any given candidate's only going to have a certain number of things that they can really spend time on,
Mhm.
and ultimately, when they get elected, prioritize. We're all limited human beings.
I was just
with
about to
so
ask,
much
what's
time.
your priority then? No? What is your priority? Your
The number-
A1, A plus, yeah.
Yeah, I think the biggest 3 we have to address, and I want to set the
See, I
table.
asked for 1, and then he gives 3. True
Ah,
politician.
Now he's going to give me 3. Now give me 3.
It's like that's biblical, I think.
Yeah.
It
So
is. It is a
Yeah.
trinity. Good job.
I think one is we're losing population. We're set to
Oh, wow.
lose 700,000 people
Yeah.
in the next 20 years.
Yes.
So
We're
lack of
49
procreation.
Yeah,
We
you
need
got
more
to teach those
conservatives getting
20-year-old
busy.
women how to have
Well-
babies. That's what you got to do.
I mean, I do have 2 kids. We are driving people away.
I don't know if you're hitting the quota.
You're
Well,
going
the
to
Democrats-
three
Democrats,
more,
the
dog.
Democrats
Three
are
more.
running people out of this state.
We're running
That's true.
things
They're
out.
But
running
the
people. I mean,
replacement but he's
people
talking about
are like
replacement
burning
population.
but
burning
it is-
rubber
it
getting out
is-
of here.
It is in terms of population growth. So we have we are 49th out of 50 states in terms of population growth.
Right.
Yes.
We're only beating Alaska. We have 4 of the top 20 most dangerous cities in
I
America.
think Alaska has more bears than the
The people. That's sad.
That's
They
That's
probably
sad.
do.
But so that's a huge
So that's
priority.
huge.
Is family promoting the family?
What are we doing right now that's not working, that's driving people away? Because frankly,
We're not
This-
making the state safe for family growth.
exactly.
Amen.
I think that's exactly right, Tim. Safe communities, good schools, strong economy.
Amen.
I think that's what, because these are the things that I'm hearing at the doors that people are the most concerned about, whether you're
Right.
Republican, Democrat, or Independent.
Yeah.
And this gets back to, well, actually, the kind of the 1, 2, 3.
Yeah,
thing I was gonna
yeah,
hit
number
on.
two.
Give it to me.
Boom. These are the things that people want to achieve together.
Yeah.
What are the values that are going to help us get to those things? I think it's getting back to the basics of America.
Mhm.
Personal responsibility, limited, really constitutional government.
Yeah.
Personal and rule of law. Right.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
These are things that I don't even think are necessarily Republican ideas. I think
No,
these are
they're-
American.
They're American ideas.
Ideas.
They're also fundamental. If you look at it from the Declaration of Independence, they're creationist ideas that were endowed with our Creator by certain unalienable rights, rights that can't be leaned against. They're unalienable. That among them are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Right.
And we know that the founding fathers wanted to actually put life, liberty, and property, the ownership,
Mhm.
because they understood that where your feet trotted, where your feet stepped, a
Tread.
certain where you tread your feet, you own it. And so-
America is more than an idea.
Yeah.
It's a people. It's a place.
Correct. And we're such an eclectic group of people that have come here, but when they came here, they understood that we're embracing the ideology that's here versus trying to bring our culture from there.
Right.
They came and they said, I know the every community, you can say it, right? The Polish community, the Russian community, the Latino community, the Italian community, whatever community it came from, when they got here, one of the things that I heard universally for 150, 200 years was they made their kids speak English in the home, even though they may have spoken broken English to themselves. Or even their.
There was the melting
They were like,
pot.
listen, you're in America.
Yeah.
You're an
Americans.
American.
Yep.
Not a
Right.
hyphenated American.
And, it's funny because out on the campaign trail, I've had a couple people ask me, my name's Dominic Restuccia. Not exactly the easiest name to throw on a bumper
Wait,
sticker. right?
we saying it wrong? Restu what?
Restuccia.
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 Which is funny enough. I got told in high school by a teacher who was from Italy that we're pronouncing it wrong. I'm like, you know what? We're pronouncing it the American way
Oh, there
because
we go. There
we're
you go.
not Italian.
Right.
We're
True.
Americans.
True.
So
Right?
probably in Italian, Restuccia.
Exactly. I'm proud of
Was
my
that
heritage,
close?
for
We're
sure.
pronouncing it the American way.
Yeah,
American
that's
way.
right. And
Hey,
trust me, I've heard
listen.
it all ways, right?
Until my mom got married when I was 10 and I was adopted by my stepdad,
Hmm.
my last name was Soika.
Soika. Is that
Soika.
Polish?
Yes.
It is.
He's a Polak.
He's a Polak.
But I would walk.
That's the Polak jokes that I bust out with.
Him and three guys
but
can
I would
change a
walk-
light bulb.
But I would walk in there and I would go. They would go Soika, and I go, "Hey, Japanese car dealer, Soika, come get your car." And they would go, "What?" And I go, "I'm just messing with you. I'm Polish." All right, so that's a good. Is that a good stopping point?
Wait, did you get
I
to the
love your- I
third?
love your
What was
voice.
the
One
third?
last piece, which
Yeah.
is we have these shared goals. We have these shared values.
Yeah.
Now it's a matter of agreeing on some public policy.
There you go.
And I think this
that's
is what we
huge.
got. This is what it comes down
That's
to
huge.
ultimately, because at the end of the day, the job that we're
I got a
all
song
running
for that.
for,
Yeah.
is a state representative job, and it's not some kind of glorious thing. You get a little shabby office, you get a couple of staffers, you're drowning in constituent correspondence. You got 109 people who believe in what they believe in just as strongly as you do. You're not going to get there and just change everybody's minds by
Correct.
talking to them about how righteous you are and how correct you are.
Right.
Mr. George goes to Washington. Do it.
Great movie.
Right.
But I think that when you have to have a set
Give me
of
Stewart
priorities,
that shit.
you have to realize, all right, this is going to be, this actually kind of gets back to the Abraham Lincoln conversation we were having earlier,
Mhm.
incremental change. What are the
Right.
things that we can work on and negotiate on legislatively? Because ultimately this comes down to budgets and legislation.
Wasn't
as a
that how
job.
we've had our
It was
downfall?
Mr. Smith.
Incremental?
Sorry.
Our
The left has been incrementally changing
Incrementally
this
changing.
country for
Yeah.
over 100 years. You can trace
Yep.
these roots back to Woodrow Wilson and
Well,
Tom Dewey.
Tim was speaking in my ear earlier about the fact that I was struggling because I didn't want to say Whig, but
Yeah,
it was
originally it was the
it was the
Whigs
Whig Party
that
became
became the Republican Party. Yep.
But the Democrats were even part of the conservative.
They were more
movements.
conservative, actually. Yeah. Yeah, and more
Now they've just become the demonic party.
Yeah.
So Larry, we've got a lot of chat to catch up on. Let's do that quick.
Sorry,
We've
yeah, go ahead.
got, we've
Let's
got
catch up on chat, but I'm loving this conversation. This is what I love. This is what I love, guys.
Yeah.
No
Good
matter
stuff.
what's of the
Down the
politics,
nitty-gritty.
all this,
There you go.
it's I love the conversation because when you sit down with somebody, we've had multiple guests on the show.
Right.
Larry's brought people over the last you've been here for like a year and a half now,
Too
right?
long. We need to
Mhm.
fire Larry.
And you brought multiple people on the show that there were some big points that I disagreed with them,
Uh-huh.
Yep.
you know,
Yep.
on some
Well,
policies.
That's good.
And yet
We're not an echo chamber.
no, we're not echo chamber, but I didn't choose to, I don't want to choose to focus on where we disagree. Let's emphasize where we agree. Let's coalesce on those.
Yeah.
Let's find that. And Dominic's exactly right. You're one out of what, 90, 190?
Oh, in the
109.
county?
No, just out of the 50 districts, you're 92.
Yeah, roughly 93,000 people in the district.
No, but I'm
Right.
saying out of the amount of representatives that we have in the state.
Oh, 110.
110.
110. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're out of 110, you're one person, but it's incremental. It's like, what are we going to do? And I look at the candidates. All three of you have strong Christian backgrounds.
Oh, great.
Raised in the church. Jason has worked in obviously he's a Marine, but he's worked in transferring Bibles and stuff like that. Christina's worked in defending people in that. You've worked in multiple campaigns, so you've got that political thing like that. And I go, you know what? We've got to hear your heart and then see the humanity, because
when it comes down,
there's very little that's
right. Because you can be efficient at executing on something, but if you're not coming from the right foundation in the first place.
Yeah.
What's the point? One thing I do want to emphasize, though, because I think the political experience that I've had is been nice and beneficial.
You didn't get jaded?
No, I really haven't. Honestly, just because I've seen throughout the process just how American this still is.
Okay.
And when you're meeting voters and you realize how many people, sometimes it's easy to think, oh, we're a bunch of Republicans and Democrats. And then you get invited into somebody's home and you sit on their couch and you hear from somebody. This just happened to me the other day. You're talking about conversations.
Yeah.
This was a couple of days ago. Older woman, her husband had recently died. Somebody who had voted Republican before, but now considered herself more Democrat. And we had a good 15-minute conversation just talking about what are some of our shared values. All right, there are some things that we disagree on.
Yeah.
But what are some things we can come together on?
Absolutely.
And,
that's where the
it's hard
80%.
She doesn't fit neatly into one column or another. She's not a card-carrying Republican, card-carrying Democrat. She's a woman who's lived a long life and has so many different experiences and has desires for her children and for her grandchildren. At the end of the day, we just want this to be the best state to live and to work and to raise a family.
Yeah.
And I have 2 kids. I got a 2.5-year-old daughter. I got a 9-month-old daughter. And honestly, the biggest reason I'm running is because I'm concerned that they're not going to have the kind of future.
They're not going to inherit the America
that makes sense.
That my parents gave to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And the kind of country that I grew up, the kind of county that I grew up here in Livingston.
Yeah.
That we're going to be so fundamentally changed that when they grow up, what kind of opportunities are they going to have? I see this right now with all these people leaving the state. Are they going to feel this pressure? My grandparents are here. My parents are here.
Right.
It's such a blessing to have them close, my siblings. But
50 years ago, you could have a single income household with 2 cars in the garage and raise a whole family and go to the beach and take a vacation and do all that stuff. And they've systematically destroyed that.
Right.
And
prices through the roof. Housing is unaffordable. You have to make 6 figures to be able to afford
every other
the average.
I hate to announce when we've got to make announcements on. I hate to announce it. I go, they made another, they told us that we should prepare for this or prepare. Right. I don't want to be on the edge of my seat having a fearful heart.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Spilling over.
There's
100 homes broken into in the Pinckney area.
Yeah.
We had a legal immigrant who sexually assaulted a minor.
I got 18 months.
County.
18 months to 15 years.
And that person should be on a plane back
to
where he came.
How is it that
Tennessee just passed? Hold on, Tim.
Yeah.
Tennessee just passed this. I love it, and I didn't pull it up because this was not the focus of the show tonight.
Right.
Tennessee just passed a bill in their house. If you were convicted and there's no anomalies in your case, convicted of rape, you have the option of being chemically or physically castrated.
There you go.
You rape somebody, and there's no anomalies in your case that you can appeal up front. You're chemically or physically castrated.
They give you a 1 off or a 2 off if you're counting the balls.
It's like no, it's a little bit more intense than that.
Right.
I understand.
But that's the type of things, and the debate was back and forth of, do we, is that too severe? Is that I go, dude, chop somebody's balls off.
Right.
The next rapist is going to think twice.
Right.
Yeah.
He may be overcome by his demons that he hasn't conquered. We're not enforcing our laws that are on the books against illegals being here.
Well, I mean, heck, forget even just. We're getting increasing the penalties. We're not even really enforcing the penalties as they are with the number of untested rape kits that are currently existing here in our state.
Hundreds of thousands.
It's ridiculous, and we don't.
Every
take this
state
seriously.
has hundreds of thousands.
I mean, even if we were just implementing the law as it was. So I know, Larry, we got a number of questions back.
Yeah, we got to get back to chat.
Let's get into a few.
Well, I want to say that, and Larry, go to the chat. I will say this last thing, and then Larry will go to chat.
Okay.
Hundreds of thousands of rape kits that have not been processed.
Unacceptable.
Let alone the amount of rape victims that have never come forward.
And the leftists say that crime is down. I don't understand that.
Because we're not taking the rule law.
Because we privatized our prisons and made them a corporate a corporate entity to where we make money on it, and we have not punished those who deserve, punished and sent deterrents to those who have committed crimes against society. As Thomas Paine said, that if men could conduct themselves as angels, we would have no need of government, because they can't. We have to institute the least amount of government to protect the greatest amount of freedoms and liberties. Larry, go to chat, because
All right.
I know people have been asking questions.
All right. Well, what I'm going to do is combine everything so I can just let him talk.
Good idea.
So,
Good man.
part one of the question is going to be, what kind of government do we have? Is it a constitutional republic, or are we a democracy?
Constitutional republic.
Oh, that was easy. Okay. And
2 points.
But what kind of government are we functioning as right now?
We're functioning as a socialist, communist
Right.
dictatorship.
I would
Right.
say that we are a bureaucratic administrative state that increasingly has the appearance or show, and I mean, let me put it this way: our legislative branch was always designed to be the strongest of the three because it was the closest to the people.
Yeah.
And the legislative branch was supposed to both be able to put parameters on the judicial branch and to have basically control the executive branch. The executive branch was supposed to be the executor of the laws passed by the legislative branch. And what our legislative branch has frankly become is talking heads on both sides of the aisle that
Right.
just shoot for their time on Fox News or CNN in order to get their
While they
get their
take
payout.
money from every
Corporatocracy.
well, they take money from all of the lobbyist
Lobbyists,
groups and all the other ones.
corporatocracy.
And honestly, I mean, some of them I think are genuinely, they're not necessarily bought and paid for, but some of them are passionate people, right? Who genuinely believe what they believe in.
Correct.
But the system is rewarding the people who are simply the loudest on Fox News or on MSNBC, CNN,
Squeakiest wheels.
the squeakiest wheels, rather
Yeah.
than the policymakers, because the policy side has been so decrepit.
Absolutely.
We've forgotten how to actually.
Well,
make
we're
public
writing
policy.
we're writing pages and pages and pages of laws when we should be if we're going to write a new law, then we should assess what was on the books and delete that. Instead, we're writing tens of thousands of provisions every year instead of clearing the books of things that don't work.
Right.
Just because you're the legislature, and I even like to put it back to as that you're my representative writing your legislation. Just because you're in the legislature and they're tasked to write laws doesn't mean that we need to be inundated with hundreds of thousands of bills every year.
No, I agree. And in fact, I think the prerogative right now is actually trying to roll back the scale, scope of the administrative state, reducing our government both at the
Yeah.
state level and the federal level. Because what I've seen in my time, really, I think the strength that I bring to the table is the combination of private sector and policymaking experience.
Yeah.
Working for Congressman Bishop, working for Senator Mike Lee, working alongside the Trump administration, working with national security Robert O'Brien and his team on the drug cartels problems
Right.
on our southern border, and seeing as a staffer how much our legislative branch has. I know we were talking about how little they've been able to do now, but going farther, seeing how we're fighting with our own administrative state within the executive branch, and seeing how basically the entrenched bureaucrats can just wait out the legislative side.
Yeah. No,
Anyways,
and that's huge. No, but that's huge because we're what we're doing is we're taking these omnibus bills that have everything involved in it.
Right.
Are you for single issue bills? Obviously.
Oh, we've done way too many of these big omnibus, last minute Christmas spending, Christmas tree bills.
Yeah.
It's a disaster. We have to get back to a better process.
Single issue, one issue at a time.
I would say
one page. Right.
I wouldn't say necessarily it has to be one page, but I do think that we do need.
You know what I mean.
But it needs to be more simpler and straightforward, and we can't. Larry and I were talking about this a little bit earlier. We can't allow ourselves to enable. Reagan used to say, compromise with getting 80% of what you want, not having to get the full 100%. Well, we've been getting 20% of what we want and giving up the other 80%.
Well, we're making 80% of what we want, and then we're getting abortion on demand, and not just abortion on demand. Okay, you want to kill your kid, that's fine, right? You want to cite the 0.03% of rape and incest. Okay, that's as the right for you to do birth control as a viable option. And I've yet to meet somebody who's had an abortion who didn't have deep regret and deep remorse once they came to a realization. There's some people that are very jaded, but the vast majority of people I've met that went,
Right.
And so it's this lobby. But my whole point is that we're getting Prop 3 was Prop 3, right?
Proposition 3, yeah.
Yeah, we got Prop 3 pushed through, and we go, listen, that can't be our 20%, let alone us only getting our 20% and if we were getting 80% and the 20% is drag queens and abortion on demand and euthanasia in our state,
right,
that 20% is unacceptable.
It's a big 20%.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But we're not even getting the 80% that we want
Right.
of the stuff. We're getting the pittance 20%, and it's a bullshit 20%.
Right.
And the 80% that's being pushed through is all our schools being destroyed, our kids not being educated, our kids being indoctrinated, abortion on demand, those types of dynamics, the DIE hiring that's causing, planes.
DEI.
You know what I say. You know what I said. Listen, Basil Hayden, Dark Ale.
Oh yeah, there's a Christmas this is a birthday present for me.
Birthday. We'll just call it a show presentation.
There we go.
Good.
That's perfect.
That's a finger.
Larry, we kind of got
Larry,
sidetracked.
catch up on chat.
Yeah,
No, Larry was doing great in chat.
Yeah.
Listen, you can't ask a question in chat and not have us comment.
Yeah. So
Dominic, you're a great job.
what will Dom do as my state house rep to address these problems, especially the illegal immigration?
Mhm.
What can our state legislators do? And
Ensure cooperation between local law enforcement and federal law enforcement
Yeah.
through funding mechanisms and public policy mechanisms, as well as ensure that we're not spending any taxpayer dollars on drawing illegal immigrants into the state. I think those are the two biggest things that we can accomplish by holding the line as a unified Republican state.
Okay,
house.
so in English, does that mean
No,
not
so that-
allowing sanctuary cities?
No allowing things.
No, crackdown on sanctuary cities.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's also giving our law enforcement the tools, resources, and training
To report to ICE.
to right, exactly, to have that kind
Immigration.
of cooperation.
And I like that because you didn't, and that's one thing you're sharing with all of us is that being 1 out of 110,
Yeah.
you're not going to get everything.
Right.
But if you can incrementally dismantle the bullshit that's been put in,
Mhm.
that's huge. And so what you just said to me, correct me if I'm wrong, but you just said, look, I'm not going to go after this or that, but I'm going to go after the one thing, the things that I can go after, which is,
Right.
I'm not going to have this, we're going to get rid of the sanctuary. We're going to get rid of this. We're going to get rid of that. And we're going to demand that they be accountable.
Right.
Those are things that you can get under the radar, or not even under the radar, but
These are things
can
where we
get-
have leverage right now.
Yeah.
And we're going to we're going to have to we're going to have to find pathways to get some of this stuff done. And I'm not saying we can get all this done overnight or even the next 2 years.
Yeah.
I don't think we're turning the ship around immediately. I mean, the way I think of this is my oldest is 2.5.
Yeah.
And by the time that she graduates from high school and she's thinking about her next opportunity and where she wants to go, where she wants to raise her family, I want it to be right here in Michigan. I want it to be that by that point, Michigan is the best place to live and work
Right.
and raise a family. Because,
Right.
I mean, Whitmer's only plan right now is, well, we want to create more jobs and bring more people here. So we'll subsidize Chinese battery plants and we'll bus in illegal immigrants.
And she's wanting to parlay. I mean, she tried in 2020. She wants to parlay this into some of their higher office, just like,
You see her book?
huh?
You saw her book, I'm sure. That's a presidential
Oh,
campaign book.
you
right
mean
there.
you mean the book that she denied writing?
Well, look at
Oh, did she?
look at the previous retard in our state,
Which one?
chick.
Yeah. But
Granholm.
Dom, so you're saying in the
Granholm.
year,
Look at Granholm. Granholm did everything she did here so she could get a cabinet position with Biden's administration.
Well, and now look what she's doing to us. She's taking
Screwing
she's forcing
everything.
these electric vehicles down our throats.
Just
Yeah.
because she came from
Destroying. I tell you what, if you're sitting at home,
socialist Canada.
there are a lot of. I was just. We had our Knights of Columbus breakfast this morning. I was washing dishes with a guy who came from Western Wayne County. He's a longtime union guy, worked for Ford for his entire career. He's telling me, you know what, I voted for a lot of Democrats in my past, but not anymore. With everything that they have been doing to us,
That's the
There's a
tide that's
lot-
turning.
I got a question.
Right?
Dom.
There's a lot of folks that have come into Livingston County because
Yeah.
they're sick and tired of they could. if you've been working for Ford for a long time, you get that this EV. You're good. This EV mandate is ultimately going to ship
destroying
jobs
everything.
to China. It's going to undermine our productivity.
it's
here
so
worse than it already
political.
is.
Yeah,
I found the tailpipe.
Not
I found-
economical.
I found the tailpipe for these EV vehicles.
I got a question.
It was over at the big plant.
It's your time.
All right, Tim, you got your question.
No,
I
it's
gotta
cool,
say this.
'cause-
I gotta say this. This is my first sip for the night.
Wait. Let me get the right camera. Where's that table?
This is my first sip
Of that
of the
stuff?
of the basil.
Oh yeah, try that. It's delicious.
No, I already had my first sip.
Oh.
Very spicy,
Isn't it?
but
not
then
like
it's got a smooth finish.
it's got a smooth. But it's not like what
It's got a very spicy up front.
Yeah, it does. The smooth finish is
But
what I
then a
really
smooth
like.
finish.
It's maybe a little spicier
it's not
than
like
I
the
like,
Fjord, or
but I like the
Fiore.
smooth finish.
Well, it's because it's a dark.
Right.
So it's
Yeah,
a little. So they've probably aged it for a while.
Mhm.
Oh, Larry's coming in with a shot glass on this. All right, Tim, ask your question. While
No.
poor
I just
Larry,
realized. No. You're saying here's your new slogan. In the year
a little bit.
2038, my daughter's got a state. That's great. That's what it's got to be.
I like that. I like
Yeah.
that too.
Yeah.
I mean, I
When she
get for a
starts
lot
her
of people,
family,
they're
you know.
people. I mean, look, people are mad right now.
they're
People
angry.
People are frustrated with the direction of the state. People want. There was another couple. A couple in Heartland Township. They told me yesterday that they're planning to move to Texas.
Wow.
They're just sick and tired of it. And I'm thinking, to
Austin's
myself,
a great place, but I mean, I wish
Great
we-
state.
Austin, Austin's
There's
a
no-
leftist fucking.
there's no reason we have everything going for us. We have a beautiful state. We have beautiful lakes. We
I
have
love this state. I grew up here. I grew up fishing here. I grew up, people go, where have you been? I go, listen, I had one vacation outside of the state in 40 years. 40 years. Like my mom wanted to go to Arizona because her friend from Michigan lived in Arizona
Right.
at the time. We went to Arizona
Right, there
for a
you go.
vacation.
Right.
Other than that, vacations were like in the state.
right.
I remember
Right.
I remember one of my
We're one of the top tourist states in the entire country.
One
One
of
of
my-
the best tourist
I-
destinations in the world.
I've lost 8 or 9 friends out of Michigan since Whitmer.
yeah.
Since
One of-
Whitmer got elected, literally 8 or 9 people that I know left Livingston
Well,
County. They're-
I
they're
remember.
like
So
done.
I used to have a small painting company, and during COVID, we just moved back, and
house painting.
house painting. Yep,
Yeah.
interior and exterior. Dom's cutting
Yep.
edge painting. It was my
Ah.
way. I
No.
paid my way through college because Hills doesn't accept federal funding, as we were talking
the
about earlier. So
Wagner-
I needed that.
Mhm.
Mm.
Spray paint.
Yeah, but
It's probably a little higher end than a Wagner.
Oh,
I remember being in the.
not really. You can get shit done with the Wagner.
I was in Home Depot. By the way, all the Ace hardwares were closed, right? Like there were too small. Apparently, small shops were dangerous.
Oh, right.
Big
Right.
shops are fine.
Right.
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
You
So
could,
then Home
you could go to
Depot-
McDonald's, but you
Corporate
couldn't
was
go
on.
to mom and pop.
Exactly.
Mom and pop was
Yeah.
dangerous. Yeah.
Yeah.
A
Exactly.
place where the real Tim Allen would stand there and drink coffee at an Ace Hardware was not allowed.
Fake Tim Allen's a dick. Anyways, go ahead, Tom.
Yeah. So I remember standing in the Home Depot line or aisle for paint.
Home
Exterior
Depot was run
paint.
by lesbians.
I'm literally standing in the exterior paint aisle. I'm looking to my left. There's like this little orange barrier, and I couldn't go to the interior paint. I'm like, what's so dangerous about that half of the aisle that I can't go into?
Dude, they all at a certain point the garden
Well,
area
couldn't
was
get
cut off.
you couldn't get seeds.
You couldn't
you
couldn't
couldn't
go
get
to the garden
seeds.
area. I'm
In
like,
fact, I remember
are
somebody
you
telling
shitting
me.
me?
I remember somebody was like, "Well, you could get seeds on Amazon." I'm like, so wait a minute. It's okay for me to get
No.
seeds on Amazon, but I can't go get them at my local Ace Hardware or my local Home
Right.
Depot.
As much as Tim just chimed in, being, and I understand where he's at. That Home Depot is run by lesbians. I'll go, okay, but all of the kids and people that run my local Home Depot that I go in and see on a regular basis, who know my name, know me, I don't have to show them ID when I walk in there. I may be violating some rule right now, but I don't have to show them ID because I walk in there and they go, hey man, we have conversations. We have dialogue. Those are people.
Right.
If there are, Tim, what do we got? Easily 10 people, maybe even 12 or 15 people.
At Home Depot?
Yeah.
The whole contractor desk.
When I walk
Yeah,
in there,
easily.
they know who
And
I am.
then and Nerf Herder, the one
Like
I
you're
like to
saying.
call Nerf Herder, who's moved to a different shift.
Oh,
and two of his friends.
Yeah. We
Yeah.
walk in there
Oh yeah.
and,
great.
and they know us.
Yeah.
It may be corporate owned,
Yeah, that's true.
but if it's locally
Local brand.
supplying a job and people like their job
Part
and
of the
they're there,
community.
Yeah.
then to me it's still locally owned.
Right.
And I'll still go over to the True Value or the Ace or,
Well,
or
frankly,
something like that. But
Home Depot's prices are usually cheaper than the other two anyway.
well, that's the dynamic. But
That's just
my thing is, we've got to move beyond these dynamics of, well, is it made in America? Do you mean assemble it in America? Because I've seen the warehouses where they switch the boxes from Chinese made and they change the labels and they put it in American.
I used to haul high-lows.
Yeah.
I would pick up these containers when I was hauling
I
containers.
remember high-lows, yeah.
And I would take a high-low down to, I'm not going to say the name of the company, in
Go ahead.
Ohio,
Go ahead,
where
Doctor.
they would unpack
Drop
it,
names all the time.
put the safety cage on it, and a sticker that said "Made in USA."
Right.
And I just
safety
picked
cage.
it up from China, from a China shipping yard.
Yeah.
It was made in China.
Dude, that's the thing.
They bring it over.
And
I would take it down into Ohio. They would open the container, pull out the two
Yeah.
high-lows that were in the container,
Right.
put the safety cages on it, and a sticker that said "Made in America."
You know,
Yeah.
one thing I would want to pivot a little bit on that is because we've talked so much about the problems that we're facing.
Yeah.
Right.
And, you know, we were talking about Reagan earlier and how optimistic that he
I
was.
got a quote for him.
Yeah.
I think that we have this great opportunity actually to build an environment. If we build it, they will come. And
Right.
to your point, instead of kind of emphasizing, we
Yeah.
just need to buy American. Well,
Feel
you
the
know
green.
what? We build a rich
I've been-
economic environment,
I've been building the man cave for 5-6 years,
and people come.
and people are starting to go. This whole next week is booked with people wanting to use the man cave.
Yep.
That's awesome.
We've had to bump
That's good.
shows because we've
And I'm like,
That's good. This is
Okay.
nice. I got to say, this is a really impressive facility.
we don't have
They
the
got
overhead
corner.
shot, but it's okay.
I-
Or the
you know-
man
oh,
cave.
the
Because I,
man
have to
cave
say,
shot.
because I
Yeah,
have
right.
watched before, and I never realized that
How
this is
big it was?
actually this is the second level,
second
Yeah.
level.
and
Yep.
that there's an entire
Yeah.
amphitheater effectively
Yep.
down here with a bar
Yep.
right underneath our
Underneath
feet.
you.
Yeah.
So very
Yeah.
impressive. I got to say.
Well, and then the mini bar now, and certain shows we do have volunteers that come in and
And Bark
host the mini bar. Otherwise, we just serve ourselves.
Yeah,
But
there you go. Cheers. But Larry, I feel bad if we leave a few questions on the table.
Yeah, we don't.
let's get back to chat.
Let's get
No, I
back.
appreciate everybody in chat. We love you guys. You know, on interview nights that we don't always get to all the
Yeah.
chats.
Let's try to get a couple questions.
Yeah,
in
see,
the
we do
last
some rapid
15
fire. I'll try
minutes.
to-
Yeah, let's
I'll
do
try
this.
not to explain. I'll try to just.
We
answer.
didn't take a break
Right.
tonight, so we'll go until Dom passes out. If Larry has to,
I'll give you 10, 12 minutes. We'll hit 2 hour.
if Larry, I know we're
Can
getting
you-
close. But
Can you give an explanation of the three branches of government and how they're supposed to work? And
that's like
I'll jump in there briefly.
It's a civics
The
lesson,
legislative
man.
branch
Yeah.
is supposed to pass the laws. The executive branch is supposed to execute the laws, and the judicial branch is supposed to
Interpret
adjudicate conflicts.
or interpret
that
the laws,
occur.
yes.
I would actually push back a little bit on the interpretation thing, Tim. I
Really?
think that our judicial branch has expanded.
Well, you can push all you want. I'm 320 pounds. I mean, I got body weight on my side. You push all
he
you
went.
want.
He went from intellectual to physical. Stop. Come on.
I'm sorry. It was my offensive line coach coming in.
Yeah,
I apologize.
I respect.
Continue down.
I do think that our judicial branch is actually what we've seen over the last 50 years, especially with the liberal agenda that's infiltrated our law
Oh,
schools,
yes,
infiltrated
yes.
our judiciary.
Right.
They've
Yes.
expanded their authority to
Which is-
basically
yeah.
use the interpretation power to basically create law.
Oh,
And
yeah.
one of the- I
They're
think the greatest-
legislating from the
I
bench.
call
True,
it- I
true,
call it
true.
legislating from the bench.
They've been
Yeah,
legislating
yeah,
from the
absolutely.
bench. And we need more rule of law judges, both. In fact, I'll give a couple of shout outs because we do have a couple of state Supreme Court positions that are up. I have helped up on a lot of campaigns in the past. Running my own campaign, I've kind of taken a little bit of a step back from that. But one campaign that I'm still pushing very hard is Andrew Fink to replace the opening
Okay.
that David Viviano is about to open up.
We'll make a note of that on the show.
In fact, it'd be
Larry, you
great
need
to
to
have
book
him
him.
on if you could at some point, because frankly, he's 38 years old, he's current state rep. What the Democrats have been doing is ingenious. They've been taking young Democrats who have proven themselves as
And molding
ideologues.
them or
Right, and they don't necessarily have judicial experience, but then they get them on the bench and they're on for the next.
what's
As
the
many
word we use for
generations.
molding? Oh, what do we call that?
Grooming.
What's the German word for it?
Here you go. Check your screens.
Groom us.
Groom us.
They like to be groomed.
Check your screens.
Oh, there it is. The Fink profile.
Yeah, he's a
There it
good
is.
guy.
Yeah.
There it is.
He's a good guy.
Okay.
So,
We'll take
but
that.
he's 38. I mean, frankly, if we're
Larry,
able to
get
get
on
him
it.
on the state Supreme Court, he could be on there for the next. We could hold him over for
40
terms.
years.
It
Yeah,
would-
40
Yeah,
years.
exactly.
Yeah, it would be nice if we could get more Brian Zaras
And
on the bench.
he's a Hillsdale
Brian Zara,
alumni.
I
He's a
think he'd
Hillsdale
be
alumni.
As good, if not, he's a Hillsdale alum. I think he'd
Yep.
be as good, if not
Yeah.
better than Zara,
Wow.
and which is high praise. I think Zara's a fantastic judge. Zara's termed out; he cannot run for re-election because
Oh.
we have an age limit in Michigan.
Oh,
So
we
we
do.
need-
On
we
our
do,
Supreme
yes.
Court?
You cannot run
70.
after 70.
That's correct.
So
Oh,
if you
really?
if you turn 70 during the course of your term,
Yes.
I was
You
defaulting to the U.S. Supreme Court, which doesn't have any.
they
limit.
do not. Michigan is unique. I think we're one of only 2 or 3 states.
So
No, but you don't have to have any judicial experience. How
don't.
can you get on the Supreme
Fucking
Court?
awesome, Tim.
What do we have now? 2? I think right now we have 2 Supreme Court justices on the bench here in Michigan that have judicial experience. The rest of them don't.
They don't.
They're all a bunch of clowns.
And we need it's a two-edged sword where do you want them to have a ton of judicial experience or do you want to have them have a ton of real life experience? Because sometimes the judicial experience, they become more entrenched in being
Institutionalized.
but at the same time you want them to have that balance. It's like when did the one ambulance chaser make it?
Which one?
Are you talking about?
Bernstein.
He did. I will say this though. I think of the liberal Supreme Court judges, I would take for Bernstein over any of the other.
And the
Democrat
only
judges
reason
around.
I would hear what you have to, or I would concede that and hear what you without experience is that he may be an ambulance chaser, meaning a personal injury.
Right.
Is because he's still at least fighting for his client. Now, most of the time they're fighting for their client because there's a big payout, but at the same time, I go, at least you're fighting for the underdog versus being the big. So
I think he's actually a very good judicial mind
Yeah.
compared to the rest of the
right.
Democrat judges.
And I'll
totally-
give it. I'll concede that. I'll concede that.
I violated my promise of trying to be rapid fire.
No, you're fine.
You should
Larry,
never-
give us the next
You
one.
should know. No, that's pretty much about it.
No.
No, we've had some great chats.
No
You
other
guys are
questions?
awesome.
Okay, and what is your view on usurpation or infringement on the duties of oath of public franchise office, not acting in common defense or general welfare of the people? So,
Can we?
So
That's
a very nuanced
to
question.
big
simplify
question.
that, I think they're
Yeah.
just asking about what do you think about people who violate their oath of office? Is
No.
that
Oaths. There's
Give
a
it
number of
to me, Tim.
oaths that have not been signed, even at the federal level.
Oh, so is that the clarification? Is that the clarification? Is that we're looking at? What is your view on those who say that they, held up their hand and swear
Mhm.
allegiance to the Constitution, but then when they go to sign the paper, which is the actual document, because as 2 Corinthians chapter 3 says that the Spirit gives life, but the letter kills.
Mm.
Oh, there is
So when
another
you
one.
sign the letter, when you sign that affidavit, when you sign that remark, that is your oath. That truly, that's the John Hancock
Putting your signature
on the
on.
Declaration of
Well,
Independence.
let me say this. I have no issue putting my signature on my oath and putting down what I have to say.
To faithfully execute the- yeah.
the Constitution, both at the state and the federal level.
Absolutely.
So
Well,
I wasn't aware
that's-
that
I
was a
think that's-
problem, but if it is,
Mhm.
Well,
not an issue for me, I can
people
tell you
have
that.
questions. I will
No, yeah,
I will
it
be
could
I will
I
be straight up
just
front with
never-
you.
Yeah.
When Larry did everybody hear me out there in radio land?
Yeah.
When Larry books a guest on the show and then informs me that they've been booked for the show,
Yeah.
I go, oh, okay. All right, I guess. And,
Yeah.
and then I go, all right, cool.
Oh, Trump's coming on the show next Sunday.
Oh,
Fuck
is
yeah.
he? I was
So-
wondering where he was
okay.
this week.
You're
Uh,
really
I'm
gonna
surprised
upstage me
you-
like that?
No.
That's in
Can't
Larry.
be with that.
No.
That was a
That would be
joke.
pretty-
Larry's a great
Yeah.
Larry's a great guy. He's wonderful. Larry, say a few
No.
words for everybody out
No,
there.
no,
He's,
you
he's
need
a
more.
great.
You need more
He's
hands.
wonderful.
More
Listen,
hands.
he's-
More hands.
He's
more
done a
hands.
lot.
In
He's
and
done a
out.
lot of great guys.
In and
you know,
out.
and you know what's funny is
He
I
goes
watched
in
that.
and out.
I
In
watched
and
that
out.
Trump on SNL from
Yeah.
like 1990 or something
Yeah.
like that.
He's changed his hand movements. He's got a lot.
But
of
he
in and
still
out.
had this heavy duty hand movement.
He does. He does this in
Even
and out,
in a
in and
skit
out.
on SNL that they're
Yeah.
trying to
Oh, yeah.
block,
Yeah.
he had these hand movements.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Dude,
It was always part of his repertoire.
it was always.
Yeah.
It was,
I think it was
talks
because
with his hands.
I think you grew up in New York and you were surrounded by the Italians.
I like to talk.
True,
with my,
true.
I like to put a pen in my hand and
No.
point fingers. Anyway, so Larry likes to do this, and then I get inundated with people. Oh, that guy or this person or that girl or this, and I go,
Yeah.
I appreciate everybody's input. I appreciate that.
Well, you delegated the booking, man.
I did
It's
delegate the booking.
Your own fault.
Well,
I
that's part
didn't
of
get.
leadership.
I didn't delegate the
You
commitment
showed me this
to
a
the
while back.
I
booking.
like
Okay.
that picture.
I
Yeah, a
still
couple
have
of
to
them,
have
don't
final
you?
say.
I don't know if you
Yeah.
can separate the two.
Well, there's that.
You should have gone a little
Yeah.
closer. You
See,
should have slowed down.
then I'm
Yeah.
third
Well, I
wheel.
was trying
I get the
to
information
distance a little
after
bit
that.
because of depth.
Yeah. So Larry
Oh, 'cause
books.
Mike's on the other side.
So
Yeah.
Larry books the show,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then maybe
Like-
clears
like-
it with me.
Here, I'm gonna pull up my webcam because it's the
And
thing.
then Tim.
Yeah.
Like
Where's my cam? Here's my cam. Here's
like
the
10
funny
minutes
part.
before the show goes, I
Here's
go,
the funny
"Hey,
part is to serve our guests.
by the
for
way,
instance,
so and
Dom,
so is going to be on.
for instance, Dom, to serve our guests, I would have loved to know if you had any websites or material you
I
would
do have-
love
I have
to
it
pull
pulled
up.
I have it pulled up.
Yeah, no, you do. But see, it's 3 degrees of separation from Larry before it even gets to me,
I know.
which I'm the tech producer. I mean, I would have loved to do, what district you're running for, your name, all on screen graphics.
Obviously,
but-
it's 50th. I
yeah,
mean, it's,
yeah.
it's,
Well,
it's
yeah, I
don't-
know. But see,
You know, it's a
wait.
cool district
Who confirms
number,
that I know so I can literally tickety tack
Let's do it.
the
Let's do it.
graphics on the
Let's do it.
screen?
Let's do it. Call it. Pull it up.
All right. There you go.
www.votedominic.org. I went with the Dominic over the Restuccia because I knew nobody would be able to
They
spell
couldn't.
it.
They're like,
My own phone autocorrects Restuccia sometimes. so-
I'm still gonna stay rest UCIA.
You know what?
My
I-
name is nice and simple.
I exchanged.
You know?
I exchanged for Soika for Gibbs. It's still 5 letters. It works.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
but
saying?
I still like rest UCIA.
You know, the funny thing though, Larry, is I did misspell Parsons in my phone when I first.
Parsons is ridiculous. Yeah,
Right?
I've spelled it Parson. I've spelled it Parish. I've
I
spelled
thought
it.
initially when I met Larry, I was like, wait, is it 14 or 12 Parsons?
That's right.
Oh, it's
How many? I spelled it Parsecs. Yeah,
Parsecs. How many is
yeah.
it? Parsecs? Parsons?
You know, I'm
Only
gonna,
Star Wars people would get
I
that.
was going to say,
Yeah,
you know what?
parsecs.
I want to make a comment here.
Yeah.
I think Star Wars is the American epic.
It is.
Well,
It is.
It is.
Han Solo.
Whoa, hold
is-
on.
Star
You
Wars.
got to be careful because the
Is it
way.
anything like Star Trek?
Mm,
You know
Hold on,
what?
I think Tim was going to make a.
Give it.
point
Give it.
about
Give your
that.
point, Tim.
no, that's okay. I'll let you have it.
No,
No,
jump in. I think 'cause
no.
you think you're going to make the point that this
So
is not
the interesting thing is,
it's a politically dangerous topic.
this whole
is.
just like a lot of things right now, there's a false dichotomy
Yep.
that Star Trek and Star Wars people
Yeah.
were at odds
No.
for
We were
Multiple
kissing.
years.
We were
Uh-huh.
kissing. We were kissing cousins.
multiple years. Not only was Star Trek and Star Wars
Yeah.
symbiotic,
Yeah.
but Lucas and Star Trek guy.
I'm gonna let you flounder.
Thank you, Tim. I can see his face. That's
I
my
know.
problem. Is I
I
can
don't.
see his
I'm
face.
gonna let you flounder.
I can see his face. Shit, I can't.
He had a whole
I'm
religion
look-
based off of Star Trek.
I know, but I'm looking at it. Anyways, Star Wars and Star Trek were symbiotic. In fact, Lucas said he drew inspiration from Buck Rogers for the serial dynamic of it being episode 1, episode 4 to start
Sure.
with. But then Star Trek, Gene Roddenberry. Thank you.
Hey, there
Oh,
go.
you thought of it. No, you didn't have to say thank you. I said it in your ears to make you look smart, and then you said thank you.
No, you make me look good. I'm going to give you credit.
Hey, there we go.
But Gene Roddenberry and George Lucas, they drew from each other. When
Yes, they did.
Lucas was inspired by Buck Rogers, right?
Yep,
Those
yep,
old
yep.
serial shows.
Mhm.
But then when Gene Roddenberry came out in '66 with Star Trek, he got even more inspired. But he wanted to do it as
Trek
a-
wanted to be
a less
utopian.
correct,
future, yeah.
and Lucas wanted to be more of a fairy tale, a
It was a fantasy.
fantasy type thing.
Yep.
And so when the first movie came out in 1977, and then when Roddenberry tried to push for all the movies that they did, and then eventually the Next Generation and all those types, he was in Health
the
when that was
sex
going on.
generation.
But they did those dynamics. They were playing off of each other and including, and it's interesting. There's these dynamics of just the different producers and different people that were doing stuff, and it's always interesting. But there's this dichotomy that they were somehow Yeah, this is Dom's site. Pull that up. Thank you. So there's this dichotomy that we're all at odds. And I'm going to harken back to this, okay? Because Larry's committed us, for all three. I think, you know what? I'll put this out there. I need everybody to chime in chat. How many would like to see a man downstairs? Tim will set up the cameras. When's the primary?
August 6th.
7th. August 6th.
August 6th.
Oh, let's do a debate.
Don't tell people the wrong date. Then nobody ever
August
shows up
6th.
for the wrong day.
Yeah. August 6th. August 6th.
Yeah, Republicans
we're
vote
gonna
on
come out
August
and
6th,
vote.
Democrats vote
So,
on August
so
9th.
here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna make this commitment.
That is a
We're
joke,
right now.
people.
We're
That's funny.
April
I like it.
28th. I will make this commitment right now. Okay. Lord willing, because you always have to make the disclaimer that the Lord's in charge and
Amen to
you don't
that.
always see everything, right? Right. Lord willing, Jason Wolford will be on the show. Christina Like will be back. Dominic will be back. Jason will be back. I'm going to commit to one more appearance. Well, first appearance by Jason, and then one more appearance by all three of our candidates. I'm excluding somebody.
Go ahead.
Well,
Okay. I'm not going to get in on that.
Yeah, we're not doing that. Anyways, the man cave and explicitly, This Is My Brain podcast. I will be willing to moderate a debate just before the primary downstairs in the man cave of the three main primary candidates for the 50th district.
I'd be down.
And I will
Any place, anytime.
I will give you guys the things, but I want you guys to have a conversation because I've talked with all of you, and I believe that all of you have a heart for our county. I know, it comes down to nuances of division. And like you said, when it comes after the primary, whoever is elected is going to be there.
August 7th, we got to do a big breakfast.
Yeah.
I think Rob Rodriguez has talked about putting together some kind of shindig, maybe a West Cross Ranch or something like that, do a big breakfast. I mean, my thought is I want to be right there by whoever the candidate is. Obviously, I'm working hard to make sure it's me. But
Absolutely.
if it's
If
Bob,
you don't
Jason,
believe in your-
Christina, I'll be standing right by them.
Yeah.
And
If you don't believe in yourself, then who are you believing in? And it's interesting to me. I've had the very slight temptation to run for office. It's very, very slight. It's just like,
it takes a little bit of mental illness. I'm just going to throw it out there.
I did this thing and I go, it takes a lot of ego and a lot of humility, and there's a balance in between. And I go, you know what? I'm choosing to be in the position that I am. I feel that I'm representing our people, sitting here, doing what we're doing,
Right.
having a conversation. I try very hard not to take sides, but I've taken sides.
Sure.
And I don't feel ashamed for that. But then at the same time, I sit down with somebody else and I go, I like you, or I like this person, or I like that person, right? And I go, man, but I like that guy, but I like this girl, I like that person.
And that's an
And
issue
you know
with
what?
primary,
But the thing is, for me, it's not political.
Right.
It's personality, because
It's funny you said that.
I want
because
to have 100 people here in the man cave
Mm.
for a party that I throw, and have everybody just hanging out. The most difficult but exciting thing for me during a party, Tim will tell you, Larry will tell you.
Yeah.
My birthday party, huge here.
huge.
Mhm.
November 4th.
November 4th?
Yeah. Yeah.
Huge.
Remember.
Yeah.
Yep.
4th
The
of
fifth.
November.
Well, we always have it
and
on the
come in
fall-
costume.
It's a fifth. Man, blow my.
We always have it on the first Saturday after Halloween.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
What's
The first Saturday after Halloween
Yep.
is the big party here.
Yep. Recycle your Halloween costume
Yeah.
and come in costume.
Yeah.
I like it.
The next big party that we have here,
Convenient for me. I'm right down the road. So, like,
dude,
Right.
yeah.
I think
That-
Super Bowl is bigger than Patty's.
You think so? That's what I was
Yes.
going to say.
Yeah.
Super Bowl. So
Next year is 7th
the
annual
7th annual chili
chili
cook-off.
cook-off.
Yeah, we're gonna have a
where's
huge.
the chili thing?
What are you looking
Yeah.
at?
I lost the feed on my phone. That's off.
That's not that. No, we're over here.
Ignore that.
Ignore that. Hit the
Yeah.
refresh.
I don't know what you're talking about, Larry.
Here we're good.
Hey, leave the
and
tech
then-
up to me. We're
so
good.
Super Bowl, and what was disappointing is we expect the Lions to be there because
Yeah.
they were like one field goal away from being
Literally
there,
one call
and they
away
would have
from
blown
taking the
away.
game,
They-
yeah.
I know. Anyways,
It was our year. I mean, the frustrating thing is, it probably was our year.
Yeah.
So hard to get back.
Hey, they
to
made
that
some.
I
position.
think
I
they-
believe
No.
in Dan Campbell. I
Did you
believe in
watch
this
the
team.
draft? Did you watch the draft?
You know,
They made
I
some
was
good
actually-
picks in the
I
draft.
was at the Protect Life banquet up
Yeah.
in Lansing during the draft.
Yeah, they made some offensive line picks.
they did, and
Well,
Yeah.
a couple
They did
couple
some
big
really good-
quarterback picks.
Yeah,
Quarterback
some
picks.
nice picks, and
Yeah.
and Whitmer got booed.
that's what we want. That excites Larry. He
Yeah,
gets all
we-
thrilled about
We
that.
need a little more of that last 2020. You know?
So I love. So what's interesting is Super Bowl here. We have a big chili cook-off.
Yep.
We do 50-50 raffle and squares and all that stuff.
Yep,
We have a
yep.
blast here.
No, we don't do any illegal gambling.
We do what?
We don't do that.
Like 60 to 70 people at least.
Rotational attendance.
Then our
Yep.
next biggest party is St. Patrick's Day because nobody goes anywhere for St. Patty's Day.
Right.
Yeah, the holiday that families don't plan
So
for.
on the Saturday following St. Patty's Day, we hold this big bash here. My band plays,
I
we
like it.
jam out,
Yep.
we do this all
We're a
the
big car bomb family in my house.
Huh?
We got to get some car bombs going.
Oh,
Carbon.
dude, car bombs. The first time I had an Irish car bomb,
What's an Irish car bomb?
Guinness.
Guinness and
It's a drink you never. It's
Bailey's.
a drink
You
you
take the
never.
Bailey's.
so you take a
You drop
shot
it
of
in.
Bailey's and you drop it into a Guinness glass
Yeah.
and then you drink it.
You gotta
Tastes like a
chug.
chocolate chip cookie.
No,
And you
it's-
got to chug
really?
it because
You gotta chug
it
it.
curdles because of the milk.
Yeah,
right.
Oh.
In the Guinness,
No.
the
I was
milk
in-
of the Bailey's curdles the Guinness.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you don't chug it fast, you're drinking those dregs.
Oh.
Yeah.
You're gonna.
I
Feel
was
it later.
I was
Okay.
You
in
gotta go. You gotta go
Guys.
fast.
You gotta go
Guys,
fast.
I was in Branson, Missouri the first time I ever had one and people challenged me and I was like, I haven't had a lot to drink tonight. I am game. And I did the Irish car bomb. And then we sat around the pool. I was like, that was badass. I got to do that again. And I've had a few since then.
Guys,
That goes.
it's-
That goes
What
from
do you
not
got, Tim?
drinking a lot to drinking a lot very
No.
fast.
When
It's-
I was in
it's-
Germany, we drank what's called a diesel,
Yeah.
which is an equal mix of a Hefeweizen and Coca-Cola.
I don't know what
That's
Hefeweizen is.
Hefeweizen is just a beer.
It's
so-
it's a dark beer from Germany.
Okay.
He likes to
that's
throw
less
out
than a
phrases.
5.5 alcohol
Yeah,
level.
come
No,
on, Larry.
No.
5.5.
less than
Dude,
that.
he's
Where
like
do you get that at?
Hefeweizen?
Yeah.
he's
it's-
talking about in Germany.
Maybe
It
you're
was probably
talking
an
about
8.
watered down Hefeweizen.
And in Germany was it an 8?
Yes.
An 8. All right. What are you gonna say, Tim? Before
No, I
I
was
finish
just saying,
my comment.
No, the Irish car bomb. Never order that in an authentic Irish pub. You will be laughed out.
I don't know about that.
No, I'm serious.
Interesting.
I've been in
Never
a few Irish
car bomb.
pubs and they
No,
ordered it for me and everybody at the
No.
bar was like, hell yeah.
No,
They're like, about time somebody stepped up.
no, they'll comment no.
Yeah.
Especially in
Tim throwing the
Ireland.
wet blanket
In
on the whole
Ireland,
thing.
Yeah.
I'm English, Irish, Scottish on my dad's
Just
side.
took a big shit in the punch bowl. Anyway, so
No, it was a turd.
those
not
are
a
our
shit.
3 big parties each year here at the Man
That
Cave.
was a good time.
And the thing that I love is it's difficult for me, but I also love it is I can't get to everybody, right? Everybody's here
Especially
at my
when you're
place.
playing and singing.
When I'm playing and singing
Yeah.
and then part of the cooking
Yeah.
on St.
It's not
Patrick's
entertaining. You're not really engaging.
No.
on St. Patrick's Day, I fill the smoker with corned beef brisket.
That sounds good.
Right.
I cook it down for like
Great
6
brisket.
hours. Corned beef brisket turns out, I mean,
Yeah.
just melt in your mouth. Like
Yeah.
you barely have to.
In fact,
Like
the
a fork.
au jus
Oh,
that he has from his
he
corned beef,
saves
brisket,
it.
I saved that
Ah,
shit and I
sounds
used
delicious.
it in soups later.
Oh, I'm
my
getting
God.
hungry now. This
Yeah,
is
exactly.
dangerous territory. It doesn't take much to get me
So-
hungry, but still.
So my whole point is that it's the very cool thing about it is, as much as I'm hosting and I'm playing and I'm doing my thing, I have to, do
Is that
that.
your brain?
And then I'll turn around and I'll see this buddy or that buddy or my friends
Mm-hmm.
that I haven't had a lot of time to hang out with.
Yeah. We got to find more events for
Who are
that.
talking with somebody that they've never met before.
That's true. What did I tell you?
And they're just having this big conversation and talking
Yeah.
about this.
Right.
And I'll swing by
That's
and
what
I'll
I'm
go,
doing.
"How you guys doing?" They're like, "Oh yeah, I met so and so," and
Yeah.
they just have this, and I'm like, "That's
That's the point.
the point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is are we a community?
What did I tell
And
you?
you may not have met this person until you came here, but now you've
How
got a
do
new
you know
friend.
Jeremy? Remember me telling you that?
Yeah, I do.
I said, yeah, one of the first, a couple parties because I've been here about
And
a
so
year. I asked everybody, how do you know Jeremy? It's everybody's meeting from all these different dynamics and different communities.
Well, and you know what? At the end of the day, that's really what it's all about.
It is.
Let's build community together.
And if we build community, then we'll have representatives, no matter who it is, who will go in these public places, in these political arenas, and will say, no, I sat down with these people.
Right.
I looked them in the eye, and I'm not going to compromise for any of these. You want to do this or do that or lobby me for this and lobby for that. No. I looked these people in the eye. I talked to them face to face. I am representing them. I've broke bread with them. I've shared a glass with them. This is where I'm at.
Right.
And I think that getting back to that, and I think that's a huge dynamic right now.
No, I agree. I mean, I think that's why frankly, the most important thing on the campaign trail in my mind is just get out there and meeting the voters. It's showing up, because basically at the end of the day, I'm asking them for a job.
Right.
And frankly, it's not the most glorious job. I think people sometimes think it's something it's not. You're asking to go get paid $70,000 a year to try to move the country, move the state in a better direction.
Right.
And you can't, I always be careful. I can't promise the moon. Can't promise that you're going to, I think some people get, I think there's kind of three types of people that really try to go to Lansing as state reps. There's people who think that they're going to change the world.
Pie in the sky.
Pie in the sky, and they show up and they realize just exactly what it is, and they got to get burned out, and they don't really get as much done.
Yeah.
Because frankly, there are actually some great jobs, great positions right in the county where you can be a little more effective. I mean, the folk, we got
more effective, maybe equal pay.
I mean, better pay in some positions, right? I mean, there's some of these guys who are doing great work for the county, our register of deeds, our drain commissioner, our prosecutor, our clerk.
Why did two of the Democrats leave Lansing to go and become mayors?
Because they could actually get stuff done
They
by
could get
themselves.
stuff done.
They didn't have to work with 109 other people
Right.
to move something marginally in one direction. Because then there's a second type of people, they know they're not going to get anything done, but they just want to go and they want to. You were talking a little bit about this. They want to get schmoozed by the lobbyists. They want to get taken to fancy dinners. They want to go to the fancy lobbyist parties. And to tell you, we as Republicans, we have controlled the state Senate for 40 years. We've had a number of the past speakers of the House. You look at most of our past speakers of the House, Lee Chatfield, abusing his position as Speaker of the House. Take advantage of being entertained by lobbyists very inappropriately. And I don't want to get into all the sordid details, but embarrassing our state.
Yeah.
Rick Johnson looks like he's going to be convicted for or maybe he wasn't convicted. I haven't been following the case particularly closely, but as a former speaker, went and sat on the marijuana board and was basically taking bribes. I mean, those are two of our four past speakers of the House, and we have not. I mean, integrity matters, but also you're going to do a job. You're going to serve the public. And these guys have been going so that's the second reason. These guys have been going to kind of entertain and enrich themselves on the side. And I don't think that's healthy. I think it's bad for our state, frankly.
Absolutely.
And you don't really, some of those guys do get some stuff done, but it's because they're getting stuff done on behalf of
people.
The lobbying court.
Well, people talk about the last election and how the Republicans lost the majority. I see. I disagree. I don't think we lost the majority. I think that the leadership threw the majority away. I don't think it was. I think it was a.
So you mean the Lions didn't kick the field goal when they should instead of trying?
No, I mean
that's a hot take.
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
Yeah, there was.
They went for 2-point conversion when they should have.
They were too invested in going after conservatives in the primary than they were with defending seats that needed defending in the general.
So I want to be careful about how I tackle this, but I would say this for this upcoming cycle, the most important thing I want to see out of leadership.
That was Larry getting his earpiece that fell out of his earphone close to the microphone.
Yeah.
Don't do that again, Larry.
First time feedback's ever happened.
That is the first. Thank Larry.
All right, I'm already
Don't fucking try it. Good God. Go ahead, Dom.
I was going to say the important thing for me to see out of potential leaders, because I think it is imperative that we retake the state house. It's not a guarantee. It is not a guarantee that we retake the state house. I mean, there's frankly a lot of concern.
We didn't step up during these last two special elections.
Right. Well, and look, we're going to be in a position where we have a couple of seats that are going to be very hard for us to defend.
Yeah.
And our, Dem +5 plus 6 seats.
Right.
And so we potentially could pick up a couple seats and lose a couple seats and be right back at 54, 56 in the minority.
This is rhetorical, but isn't it interesting that we have 3 great candidates here in Livingston County, and yet we couldn't ship like all of you, one or two of you to another.
Yeah,
'Cause,
2 of you need to move.
Dude, there's some other counties that
Other
have
counties.
shit
Right.
candidates,
Look,
and I'm like,
you know what's funny is
I wouldn't make the decision on who to
ship.
ship, but I'm like, oh my God.
Well, it is funny
Dude.
because I had a couple people call me and say, "Why don't you move for another seat?" I'm like, "Well,
You feel like
I'm
a
not-
carpetbagger, don't you?
I mean, look, I'm a realtor, so I'm never against people moving. I'm not going to throw
Right.
stones at
No,
anybody
But you're how
deciding to
old?
sell a house.
Yeah, you're.
But I learned. I grew up in
He's good.
Livingston County. We bought our house in 2020. We moved back here. We've been out in DC for 4 years. We wanted to start our family.
Right.
We found a great little house in
Which
downtown. Howell.
that's legitimate.
And frankly, I mean, this was not my plan for what is the year 2024.
Yeah.
I did not think that I would be spending this year on the campaign trail.
What I'm
And
saying is,
with everything
I'll
happening in the
concede
state-
I'll concede to you that that's legitimate. Is if you're in Lansing and you're working for some type of representative from where you're at, that's not technically a like a move, right? We're not talking about we're not talking about who's the girl you really like here? That's the U.S. rep. Your friend,
She's not
You're
my
right.
friend.
Sluckin. Anyways, who is like
Wait, party
never
before
lived
country?
here,
No.
like never lived here, right? You have your roots here, and that's with all 3 candidates. Might be a variation of lines here and there, but good candidates.
Yeah.
That's my difficulty.
Well, I think the truth is, in some of these competitive seats, we also have some great candidates. Over in the 61st, Russ Cleary is a friend of mine running over there. I think he'd make a great candidate. I think there's a couple other people in that primary, so I don't want to like step on toes with the other guys, but I know him as a good candidate.
Right.
I know Riley Linting down the 27th.
We have a good friend running against Paul Young and Nikki Snyder up in the 8th
Yeah.
for the Congress, not for.
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
I'm,
the
and
eighth,
I'm
yeah.
really just thinking like in terms of the state house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like we now got Brian Ignatowski over in the 48.
Correct. I like
I think
Brian.
he's a great guy.
Yeah. Brian's a good guy.
I think we have some quality candidates in some of these competitive seats. I mean, I
We
think
don't need to do it.
that the most important thing is to have candidates who connect with the community. I mean, I'm not against people moving within a county to find a spot where they think they fit in the best.
Correct.
But I'll just say for my part in this particular instance, I had the seat open up to me and I thought this is an open seat.
Well,
I think I can deliver the results better
with
than
the
any other candidate.
redistricting, it's been difficult sometimes.
I mean, I think the 48th is a winnable seat. I mean, if you look at the base
but
numbers,
remember what was it 3 years ago, 4 years ago? They redistricted that, or was it 6 years ago?
No.
it would have been the 2020.
Yeah.
2020. So 4 years ago.
4 years ago.
They
The 2022
redistricted, and you're like,
election
are you
cycle.
serious?
Yeah, and then they left Jason Wolford out, hung out to dry. They didn't do anything for him. The party did.
I think we have winnable seats in these competitive areas that
Yeah.
we can frankly win.
Yeah.
But we have to our candidates have to run aggressively, and then B, I mean, I'll say this: I'm going to toot my own horn a little bit. I think I'm the only candidate who went out and knocked doors for Josh Powell in his district to try to help him win that seat in Westland. I mean, I think we can talk a big game, but I think what
A lot of
matters is
cross door knocking.
yeah. I mean, look, at the end of the day, I think it's important that each candidate works hard in their own seat to win the race.
Yeah.
But August 7th, we all shake hands. We're all on the same page for the 50th. We'd all better be showing up in
For
the
everybody's-
27th and the 31st and the 61st and the 58th. And
Absolutely.
by the way, I think the best candidates are going to be the ones who know exactly what seats can we flip, what seats do we need to defend, who are we defending. Even
Right.
if we don't agree with them on everything,
Yeah.
I want a Republican holding the speaker's gavel
Absolutely.
in 2025.
Absolutely.
Because if we fail to do that, we really got. If in an environment where our economy is headed downwards, our prices are headed
Shit.
up,
yeah.
home sales are down, home prices are up, illegal immigration is up, population growth is down.
Yeah.
If we can't win in that cycle,
Yep.
what do we have to fundamentally reevaluate what we're doing as a Republican Party.
Absolutely. Dominic Restuccia.
Restuccia, not an easy name.
Restuccia.
Vote Dominic. That's my.
Your site
Vote for
is
www.votedominic.org.
votedominic.org. All right, you guys check out his platform. Do I need to put that on the screen real quick for you, Tim? There it is.
Grab the home screen. That was my opening press release. Pop up the home screen's a little fancier.
There you go. Oh, I didn't know that.
Well, you can see I've gotten pretty fat.
A little thick.
Hey,
You
COVID
got two
lockdown
girls,
did
right?
a lot to us all.
The dad bod thing is
The
totally
dad
right.
bod?
The dad bod thing.
What do we term that nowadays, Tim? We don't call that the dad bod. We call that the father figure.
The father figure?
That's good. That's
It's no
good.
longer the
I
dad
like
bod.
that.
It's the
Hold on.
father
Everyone,
figure.
everyone needs a father.
Right, that's it.
I love it.
There's Dominic.
Father figure.
Check him out right there.
his
Learn
wife
more.
being
Meet
an
Dominic.
Awesome cook.
Hopefully you guys have had an
It says
opportunity
the
to
father
meet
figure
Dominic
is
tonight.
Due to the wife being an awesome cook.
She is. My wife is a fantastic cook.
Yes.
Great woman.
Cool.
She's not saying. I mean, it's so hard in the family running on these elections with the amount of time. I mean, I love you guys, but I'm. Oh yeah. I mean, I'm out here on a Sunday night for a couple hours. She's home
With
putting the kids to bed.
running the house.
I mean, she is, and she's frankly smarter than the two
Isn't that
of
the
us.
transition between life is you're moving from one sector to the
Oh, yeah.
I sit down with multiple people that are involved in politics and I go, what do you do, for your day job
Right.
versus what you're doing, because a lot of there's some things that aren't, dude.
It's a sacrifice. I mean, like I was trying to do some real estate stuff today.
Yeah.
Because frankly, I mean, I'm just out working as hard as I possibly
you're
can
hammering it,
for but I know I'm taking a hit on business. It's hard for me to take on new clients.
right?
It's hard for me to make time for, I got to take care of the people that I've got, but I have
And
to
the real
refer some
estate
people
market
out
is
because I'm like, hey,
tanked right now.
yeah, exactly, Tim. Exactly.
I'm working like crazy on some of the jobs, some of the clients that I have right now because I've taken a lot of time in the last year to build up the man cave to do a lot of things you see around here.
Looks good.
And you can't take so many days off working on your own stuff before you got to go pay some bills.
Yep.
So Larry, why don't you finish up with is there anything in chat that you need to finish up with your final comments? Let's do a combo with you, Larry. Combo.
Actually, I think
Final thoughts in
we're
chat.
all caught up with the
Chat.
chat world.
Good.
So
Any final thoughts over here, buddy?
I just want to thank him for coming on our show.
Sign my
Thanks for
paper,
having
Larry.
Anywhere in particular?
That doesn't matter.
Anywhere, buddy.
Just go ahead and sign it.
Give me the overhead, Tim.
I've known him for 5-6 years, maybe something
Yeah.
like that. I think I was Mike Detmer's campaign manager at the time.
That's right. I was on the other side of that with
Got
Lana. But you know what I loved about that is how we were still able to be civil and charitable, and not just more than that, we were generous with one another, right? I mean, the recognition that at the end of the day, we're still hauling ass in the same direction, right? We're still working towards the same thing.
Dude, it's all good. Is that you, Larry? That was your final thought?
Yeah, that was my final thought.
You're a sweetheart, Larry. I love you.
We're gonna have a nice debate. I think we're gonna have to schedule.
Dom, final thoughts.
Thanks for having me out, guys. Good. I like the setting, by the way. I think we need more conversation, right? Because we're not going to agree on 100% of everything. I think it's good that you have people on here, especially who you really disagree with. But I think it's good just to be able to grab a whiskey and be able to delve deeply. This whole podcast dynamic.
Yeah.
I think this is one of the healthiest
Oh, it's a
developments.
great format. Are you kidding me?
It's a great format. This is one of the things that my background, I've worked in a number of public policy shops for Mike Lee and Mike Bishop, but also on the political side with people like Tudor Dixon and Vivek Ramaswamy. And, one thing I loved about Vivek was him going on podcast after podcast.
Tudor's a firecracker.
Just to have these
Vivek
conversations.
made a commitment to Larry
Mhm.
and me. That the next time
To
he
come
was in
back.
town, he would come here.
Come back.
All right, we got to make it
He
happen.
would come sit here. So if you can help,
Vivek?
Yeah.
Oh,
But Vivek said that he would
He
be willing to
did
come.
promise he'd
And,
come on the
and I
podcast.
think that if Vivek walked into the man cave,
Oh,
he
he
would be
would
like,
love it.
"This was the right decision to make."
you would love it.
I'm Vivek, and the
I don't
decision
know if
was
he drinks,
the right one
but
to
we
make.
could buy him a Coke or something.
There we go.
What are they doing? Do they do fermented milk? Fermented.
I don't have any.
He's not as
idea.
Indian
He's
as
not
you
as
think he
Indian as they
is.
are.
No, dude.
I'm
You
Catholic,
just
so
give
I-
him what you
This is great. You need a sweat.
just give him the man cave treatment. Vivek will love it.
He'll love it.
Here we go.
Good, Dominic.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thank you very much for coming out here, sir.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it. As
right.
always, good
Tune in.
conversations. That's what I want. I want conversations.
Remember, folks, go hit that thumb. Run, give
hit
us a
the
rumble.
thumbs up. Thank you, everybody, for being in chat. Appreciate all of you. Yeah, Larry, if you want to contact Larry, if you're offended by the show tonight and you want to tell Larry how offended you are, this is my brain, hosts at outlook.com. Go to that.
Yes.
If
Please send
you
us
want
an
to,
email.
You get the flack when.
yeah, this is my brain, hosts at outlook.com. That is not the official name of the show, much to some people's misunderstanding. The show is called This Is My Brain. Then we add things. This is my brain, host at outlook.com. That's Larry.
right.
If you want to do that. Yeah. Anyways, if you want an awesome t-shirt, are you gonna pop those up, Tim? Okay. T-shirt. Tim's going to talk to you about t-shirts. He's going to talk to you about QR codes. If you want to support the show, you can do that. I know, but you asked me, so I'm doing this. I love having conversations. It's a great conversation once again with another person in our community that is trying to stand up for what is right, and I appreciate that. At the end of everything, because Tim doesn't like at the end of the day. At the end of it, he's like, dude, if he says it one more time, I'm just gonna go.
Too cliche. What's the?
Here's funny.
pet peeves.
There's
He's
a
just got pet
song.
peeves.
There's a song called "At the End of the Day." I have a soundbite. If you say it 5 times on the show,
He
I
just
play the song "At the End of the Day." Yeah, so it's such a cliche phrase. It annoys them.
Yeah, he's got his own pet peeves over there.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
it's all right.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
the reality is,
before I go-
Scripture talks about that if you don't clear everything or
Yeah.
take care of stuff at the end of the day
Yeah.
before you lay your head
That's
on
true.
your pillow,
That's true.
then you've made a mistake,
Right.
right? And so it's talking about the culmination of each moment or each cycle.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we will do. So look at this. Check out the QR codes. Tim's going to pull those up. Thank you, Dom, for coming out here.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it. I will restate that I will be willing to have the 3 main candidates.
Yep. I would love to do a debate. We did a telethon.
We did a
could
telethon
handle
here.
a debate.
Listen. We held a
I
telethon
would
here.
love a debate.
Shane Trejo brought it to us. We
Really?
raised $250,000.
Wow. What was the?
Yeah.
We
For
raised
the
$250,000
Yeah,
for
for
the
Republican
defendants.
electors.
the
Chuck
Republican
and
delegates.
Marianne.
Delegates.
Mhm.
The Republican delegates. It was put on by Gateway Pundit with
Mike Lindell's help. Yep.
Michael Lindell's help, but also Shane
Impressive.
Trejo brought it here to us. And so
That's a good haul. That's
yeah.
impressive.
Yeah.
we did 12 hours. It was
Yep.
just a
Yep.
juggernaut.
Slog, but
Yeah.
impressive.
And so I would be willing to host a debate just prior to the primaries, but
Yeah.
I'm going to have all 3 of you back respectively
would
because
love
I
a
want to have
debate.
conversations. You guys are running for office, but I want people to know you because no matter what is, you're pillars in the community because you're standing up. I don't always recognize how much of a pillar of the community that I am
Mm-hmm.
until
Mm-hmm.
people give me feedback and people talk about the show or people contact me.
Mm-hmm.
And I go, okay, our show is having an impact. So
Yeah.
therefore I have to be conscious of
Almost,
those dynamics.
No,
I don't want to
almost-
censor myself.
no, almost an obligation.
Well, it's an obligation, but
Almost an obligation.
it's an obligation, but it's also an honor. And you said this, and I'll finish with this
Yeah.
point. You said it earlier in the show tonight. You said one of your points was responsibility,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
And Tim knows this from things that I've taught. I taught a whole series where I flip it. Right?
Ability.
The responsibility is also your ability to respond.
Yep.
So when you are given, it's the Spider-Man thing is with
Much power.
what much power is much responsibility, but it's response ability. Break the
ability to
word.
respond.
Mhm.
Your ability to respond is your responsibility. You have the ability to respond because you've been given the ability to respond. You have the response ability
It becomes an obligation.
because you have the ability to
Mhm.
respond. And therefore, when you rise to certain levels in your community of being a voice, of being an influence, of being a representative, then you have certain response abilities or abilities to respond where you need to embrace that or move back from that and say, I don't want this responsibility. I've risen to this level, but I want to back off. I'm not one person who wants to back off. I want to be able to look at the people out there and say, I'm going to have a conversation. You take away from that conversation what you will. Glean from it what you will. Support who you will.
Right.
But be genuine to yourself and to the people that you support. Right. And I think that is the highest level of honor that we can all achieve. Is be a true friend, and then in that friendship, discern your allegiances beyond that friendship. You may be the greatest friend that I could ever have, but you're not equipped for X, Y, or Z. Mm-hmm. But then you may be equipped for A, B, and C. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to say to you, my advice, go for A, B, and C. I'm going to say to you, this person, go for X, Y, and Z. I'm going to say to you, but if I'm in that position, that's what I want to do. So thank you guys all for tuning in tonight. I appreciate it. Thank you, Dom, for coming in here.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you for the gift of the
of
Baden Hazel tonight. That was good. It's spicy.
A little spicy in the
A
front,
little spicy.
smooth on the back.
Yeah.
It is.
Tune in, you guys. This Tuesday, we'll see you guys. Tuesday's going to be spicy. What do we got some? Do we have anything special Tuesday, or we're just going to do our normal rant?
It's our normal rant.
Normal rant.
Got some good stories.
Oh, we got some good stories. Okay. Thank you guys. Appreciate for that. Tim's got the QR codes up there. Take it away, Tim. We will see you guys on Tuesday. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And see you next time.
Remember, don't let friends vote Democrat.
This is my brain.
Dad, that's an egg. That's an egg. Honey,
Dude,
that's an egg.
seriously.
That's an egg.
It's a metaphor.
It's still an egg.
That's an egg.
I would challenge you.
That's an egg.
I know my brain is not actually an egg, okay? It's a metaphor.
Metaphor or not, that's not your brain.
It's just an egg.
Una cerveza para mí. My egg is my brain.
Can I at least have some bacon, maybe some sausage with that egg, though?
Oh, I want some bacon.
I want crepes.
Have some bacon and pancakes with that egg.
I'll take it with cheese.
Extra large brown cage-free eggs.
Can I have your brain with hot cakes?
A little sausage and a little toast and potato.
That would be great.
Does it have antibiotics?
I don't know, man. I'm not good at this shit.
Well, they got to be able to resist some diseases.
You resist the disease.
Has it got any hormones?
Maybe. It's cage free.
Vegetarian?
Maybe.
Are they vegan?
No, I eat steak.
Never apologize and never explain.
Never apologize.
Yeah.
Never apologize and never explain.